Chapter 121. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. When Willie saw that Wang Yu had not only rejected the mission, but had also adopted such a stance, he snorted coldly. Stubborn, ignorant ant. Today, I'll show you the power of God. You block him, I'll go look for the divine magic stone. Yang Na saw that Willie's combat form had been triggered, so she instructed and ran back. As he spoke, Willie's robe fluttered even though there was no wind, and his entire body floated toward Wang Yu. This old man was a real gangster. From the looks of it, he was a proper long-range boss. At this time, instead of retreating, he advanced and wanted to engage in close combat with Wang Yu, a martial arts expert. Wang Yu extended his body, and with a flick of his feet, he smashed a collapsing fist. Willie did not panic. He tossed the scripture in his hand, which floated in mid-air and blocked in front of him. Wang Yu reacted quickly. He turned his body sideways and dodged the scripture. At this moment, Willie's right hand flashed with light as it slapped toward him. Wang Yu blocked Willie's attack with his left hand and suddenly reached out with his right hand to grab Willie's throat. Blocking and grabbing the throat was the most common move of military boxing. However, when used by a martial arts expert like Wang Yu, even a boss like Willie could not avoid it. Wang Yu grabbed him by the neck and pressed him to the ground. The boss was pinned to the ground in one round. Even though Yang Na was from a martial arts family, she could not help but be stunned when she saw this scene. When it came to martial arts, the more knowledgeable people were, the more they would know how powerful it was. For example, Wang Yu's move. However, in the eyes of ordinary people, Wang Yu's attack was just stronger and his posture was slightly more handsome. Literature building. However, in the eyes of a martial arts expert like Yang Na, it was different. The simplest move was the most effective attack. Only those who had reached the legendary realm of no move is better than a move could achieve this. As the saying goes, not having any moves wins over having moves. It wasn't referring to throwing punches without any pattern or technique, or using random punches to kill a master. Instead, it was referring to people like Wang Yu who already disdained using fixed moves to fight with others. Every move he made was able to unleash great power. Only when one reached this level could he easily use all the moves and then turn something rotten into something magical. Wang Yu was only in his 20s, but he already had such a cultivation. It seemed that the title of the most talented person in history was not just for show. If the boss could be so easily defeated, the designer could really go F***CK himself. After Willie was pushed down by Wang Yu, his face did not show any signs of panic. This made Wang Yu instantly put up his guard. Sure enough, at the same moment, Willie put his palms together, and the string of beads around his neck glowed and wrapped around Wang Yu's hand. F***CK. Wang Yu was shocked and quickly withdrew his hand. Willie's face showed a hint of surprise. The string of beads was around Willie's neck, and Wang Yu's hand was also around Willie's neck. It was only a matter of time before Wang Yu was able to dodge it. How could Willie not be shocked? Too treacherous. Wang Yu squinted his eyes and stared at Willie. He thought to himself, using himself as bait to trick me, this old bastard is so ruthless to himself, he won't be any better to others. Willie looked at Wang Yu with admiration and asked again, "You really don't want to be a servant of God like me?" Wang Yu smiled. "A servant is a servant. I'm not that cheap." As a martial artist, Wang Yu naturally had his own pride. Willie's eyes flashed coldly. "Despicable heretic, this is your own downfall." Willie suddenly clenched his right hand, and the scripture that had been floating in the air suddenly flew towards Wang Yu's head. Literature building. Wang Yu hurriedly dodged, but the scripture seemed to have grown eyes. It turned and changed direction, following him like a shadow. How shameless! Wang Yu cursed gloomily. In reality, there is no such thing. At the same time, Wang Yu flipped forward, attempting to get close to Willie. Willie was not stupid. His body floated backwards and flew a few meters away. Wang Yu missed, and the scripture came crashing down. Wang Yu condensed a chi wave shield in his left palm and lifted it up. He spun upside down, and with 2 consecutive kicks, he sent the scripture flying. The light from the scripture dimmed, and just as it was about to attack again, Wang Yu's body flashed, and he used Dusk Leap to appear in front of Willie. Willie was shocked and stretched out his hand to block Wang Yu's fist. Wang Yu chuckled. His left hand grabbed 3 of Willie's right hand's fingers and flicked them backwards. Willie felt the pain, and his knees slightly curled up. Just as he was about to kneel down, Wang Yu kicked his knee, and Willie fell forward uncontrollably. Wang Yu's right palm moved upwards, aiming at Willie's elbow, and abruptly pushed upwards. Kacha! An ear-piercing sound of bones breaking rang out, and Willie's elbow was pushed up to his nose, and his entire right arm was forcefully broken from the shoulder. Minus 2,424, a number appeared above Willie's head. Whether or not NPCs could feel pain, Wang Yu was not sure, but this Willie acted as if he did not feel it, and let his arm fall, and then said calmly, "Shameless heretic, do you think you can hurt a servant of God like this?" Seeing Willie like this, Wang Yu couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine. This was a cult, using faith to numb one's mind and body. It was too scary. Without waiting for Wang Yu to recover from his shock, Willie waved his left hand, and a holy light descended from the sky. Willie smiled as he bathed in the light, and his health bar instantly recovered to full. His arm that had been broken by Wang Yu was also as good as new. Wang Yu was depressed. If the system was shameless, then there was nothing he could do. He had gone through so much to injure the boss, but with a wave of his hand, he was back to full health. How annoying was that? You must accept God's judgment. After using his skill, Willie's face showed a hint of fatigue. He then roared and opened his arms wide, his entire body like a cross. The scripture in the air flew to Willie's head and then opened its pages. A golden light shone on Willie's head, and his entire body exploded with an infinite amount of light. This was a light-type monster. Putting aside its attack power, the sound and light effects were absolutely arrogant. When the light touched Wang Yu's health bar slowly dropped to about 1%. However, Wang Yu had a health recovery equipment, so his health bar quickly recovered. Wang Yu was very puzzled. This boss made such a big commotion. Is this attack power just for show? At this moment, Yang Na suddenly shouted, "Hurry up and dodge. This light can destroy your weapon." Huh? Wang Yu was shocked. He hurriedly looked down, and sure enough, his boxing gloves were a bit more worn than before. F***CK? Wang Yu hurriedly retreated, but no matter how crafty this girl's movements were, no matter how fast she was, in the face of this overwhelming holy light of judgment, she was nothing, seeing that his precious boxing gloves were getting more and more worn out. Wang Yu gritted his teeth, took them off, and put them back in his bag. As a martial artist, Wang Yu's attack growth was not high to begin with, and the damage of his skills was also very weak. The reason why Wang Yu could kill people in one shot, besides the high completion of free mode attacks, was because of this pair of boxing gloves. At this moment, facing this boss that could recover health, without a weapon, there was no way to deal any damage. After all, this was the Holy Court, the government of Holy Light City. Although the Holy Knights had temporarily left, if this place was attacked, they would quickly return. Therefore, to deal with Willie, there was no way to waste time. What is this? Just as Wang Yu was at his wit's end, rummaging through his bag for the broken boxing gloves that he had received when he changed classes, he suddenly found something. P.S. What did you find? Chapter 122. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. Eternal Silence was feeling rather sullen at this moment. He had originally wanted to stand up for his brother and show off in silence. Who knew that his honor points would suddenly drop by 300 for no reason? Literature building. Then he became the public enemy of the city and was blocked at the revival point. What was worse was that he couldn't even drink water when he was unlucky. He lost 2 gold coins in just a short while. As a tycoon, Eternal Silent Dawn didn't feel bad about losing money. He was just frustrated. If he really did something bad, it would be fine, but he didn't do anything. There were players everywhere outside the revival point, blocking the entire street. The players looked at the Royal City Root Group as if they were looking at a boss. If it wasn't for the fact that fighting was prohibited in the revival point, they would have already pounced on them. Eternal Silent Dawn looked at the players outside the revival point, then looked at the landlord cards in his hand. He only had 2 threes left, and he became even more frustrated. Young Master Dawn, it's your turn. Do you want it? Seeing Eternal Silent Dawn spacing out for a long time, the subordinate beside him couldn't help but urge him. Let me think about it. Eternal Silent Dawn held his cards. It's been almost 10 minutes. You still haven't thought about it? Eternal Silent Dawn glared at the subordinate. Think about it. Think about it. Do you understand? You guys don't use your brains. That's why we're stuck here. Do you know that? Air. The subordinate felt wronged. Didn't want to wait for the rabbit, but the rabbit didn't want to. What did it have to do with me? Boss, are you trying to go back on your word? Am I someone who goes back on my word? Then do you want it? Let me think about it. Eternal Silent Dawn continued to play with the cards in his hand. Damn, who is this? Don't they know to queue up? At this moment, there was a commotion outside the revival point. A pair of knights in white armor, fully armed, forced their way through the line and squeezed to the front of the crowd. All the players knew that these were the holy knights of the Holy Dynasty, so although they were angry, no one dared to make a move. Rebel against the Holy Dynasty? The Royal City route was a living example. Damn, they chased us all the way here. When Eternal Dawn saw the Templars, he roared and stood up. As if he had seen his savior, he hurriedly threw his poker cards to the ground and pointed at the Templars. Stop them. TSK. When the surrounding lackeys saw the 2 or 3 players in Eternal Silent Dawn's hands, they curled their lips and stood up in disdain. They drew their weapons and stood in formation. Resurrection points could only restrict players, not NPCs. This was common sense. For God and justice. The Holy Knights raised the cross, swords in their hands, and shouted loudly. Their bodies glowed brightly as they lowered their heads and charged forward. The 12 of them were like a wall as they crashed into the resurrection point. Royal City Root had fought with these guys before and knew that they had high attack and high defense, but their brains weren't that good. When the Holy Knights opened their stance, everyone was already 1 step ahead and dodged. When the 12 of them crashed into the resurrection point, everyone once again surrounded them with melee fighters at the front and range fighters at the back. In Rebirth, the resurrection points of each class were different. For example, Eternal Silent Dawn was a retribution paladin. His resurrection point was at the monastery camp, while the monastery was the resurrection point for the priests. These 2 resurrection points were next to each other. Therefore, the people who were stuck at Royal City Root were all priests and paladins with low attack, but high survivability. If it wasn't for this, with the skills of these professional players, they would have already killed their way out. No matter how strong the Holy Knights were, they were just small monsters without much intelligence. They were surrounded by dozens of paladins and priests. Even if they didn't deal enough damage, the Holy Knights couldn't do much. The battle between the 2 groups was very boring. The Holy Knights didn't have low attack, but the people of Royal City Root had a paladin and a priest. Paladins were also famous for being able to control tanks, so they had high defense. After being attacked by the Holy Knights, they only lost half of their health, and the priest behind them could heal them back up in a few hits. The Holy Knights couldn't do anything to Royal City Root, and the people of Royal City Root also couldn't do anything to these 12 metal cans. The Retribution Paladins focused on auras and crowd control, so their attack power wasn't their forte. The priests didn't even need to be mentioned. They had almost no attack power. Fighting the Holy Knights was like scratching an itch, and the Holy Knights could also heal themselves. After a while, they would heal themselves. In the end, the 2 groups fought to the death for a long time and still had full health. This could be considered a miracle in the history of group battles. To be honest, the people of Royal City Root didn't want to fight such a boring battle. However, if they didn't fight the Holy Knights would kill them, so they had no choice but to fight. These simple-minded people definitely wouldn't listen to reason. After fighting for a long time, one of the players suddenly realized that something was wrong. He pointed at the Holy Knights who were trying to break out of the encirclement and said to Eternal Silent Dawn, "Boss, why do I feel like they're trying to escape?" Eternal Silent Dawn said calmly, "The Holy Knights are fanatics. They only have God and heresy in their minds. Why would they escape? Then why are they desperately trying to escape from the encirclement?" The subordinate asked in confusion. Everyone in Light City knew that the Holy Knights were brainless. Their fighting style was also very mechanical. However, they were both proficient in both magic and combat. They could attack, resist, control, and recover. Their main attributes were also abnormally high, so they were very difficult to deal with. However, this was the first time that anyone had heard of them desperately trying to escape. Eternal Silent Dawn laughed and said, "You probably don't know this. After being surrounded, breaking out of the encirclement and attacking again is a very common strategy. As long as we let them out, they will definitely charge at us again." Really? Eternal Silent Dawn subordinates were all professional players, and in terms of gaming experience, they were even more experienced than Eternal Silent Dawn. Hearing Eternal Dawn's explanation, they were a bit skeptical. When did these blockheads become so smart? People always change. No matter how smart they are, I can still see through them, right? Eternal Silent Dawn laughed proudly. "We must defend well. Young Masterling and young Masterphone will be here soon. When we kill these guys, we will definitely get Knight and Priest equipment." Okay, as soon as they heard about equipment, everyone was on high alert. In the game, what could be more tempting than equipment? The Holy Knights were both Knight and Priest classes, and the respawn point was filled with Priests and Knights. If these Holy Knights weren't so brave, the Royal Root players would have already pounced on them and killed them. The reason why the Holy Knights broke out of the encirclement was naturally not what Eternal Silent Dawn thought. The monster's AI was fixed, and unless the system was updated, it would not become smarter. The Holy Knights risked their lives to escape because Wang Yu and Willy were fighting in the Holy Court. According to the system's fixed pattern, once a player starts fighting with Willy, the Holy Knights will ignore everything and attack the player. However, at this time, the Holy Knights couldn't even leave the respawn point. Protecting the Holy Court had become an extravagant hope. Chapter 123. Wang Yu's Warrior's Heart was an S-rank quest. S-rank quests all had a hidden breakthrough. The Inquisitor's breakthrough was his underlings. In terms of attack power, Judge Willy was a dual support class. Compared to the Dragon Blood Spear God, who focused on attack, he was much weaker. His Paladin minions made up for this deficiency. The Paladins had a battle formation skill. If used near Willy, their attack power and defense power would increase significantly. Moreover, with the support of Willy's various powerful support skills, no matter how invincible Wang Yu was, under the suppression of the system attributes, she could at most guarantee that she would be able to escape unscathed. The scariest setting of this quest was that after the Holy Knights died, they would instantly respawn in the Holy Court. No matter how many helpers Wang Yu found, it would all be useless. This was also specially designed by the designer to prevent players from exploiting the loopholes in the system. Therefore, according to the system, if these paladins were killed by the Palace Root, they would also respawn in the Holy Court. Unfortunately, the Palace Root were either paladins or priests. Their attack power was relatively low, and they could not do anything to these brainless guys. Just like that, the people of Royal City Root had accidentally stepped on Wang Yu's mission breakthrough, unknowingly helping Wang Yu, his enemy, with a great deal of help, without even realizing it. In the Holy Court, Wang Yu squinted his eyes and stared at the glowing High Priest Willy. He leisurely pulled out a rod from his bag. This rod was only a meter long, with one end thin and the other thick. It was completely golden, and the thick end had a ring of jewels, making it look very gorgeous. Holy Light, Scepter Gold Attack, 45-67 mana, 50-70 Vitality, 12 Strength, 14 Holy Light, Instant Recovery of 20 single target skills Holy Power Buff. All light skill effects increased by 50 Divine Blessing. All attributes increased by 10 within 500 yards. Level requirement. 1 class requirement. Paladin, Priest. This nonsensical weapon was called a scepter. It was the one that Wang Yu snatched from Huaxiao in Beijing. The scepter had one end light and one end heavy. It was similar to the bone flower of ancient China. The bone flower belonged to a kind of strange blunt weapon. When it smashed onto the body of a target, it would instantly cause a considerable amount of damage, enough to shatter bones. Grandmasters of combat were not restricted by weapons, and martial artists were proficient in all kinds of weapons, so Wang Yu could use this thing. Wang Yu was a strength type in real life, so holding this thing now was quite convenient. Originally, Wang Yu had only taken it out because it wasn't his item and he wouldn't feel bad if he broke it. Who knew that after taking it out, Wang Yu was surprised to find that the scepter wasn't affected by the ruling light. Interesting. Wang Yu smiled and swung his scepter twice in the air, shouting, "Hit!" At the same time, the scepter flew out of his hand and smashed towards Willie. Willie was chanting with his eyes closed, like a stationary target. He was smashed backwards by Wang Yu's scepter. Willie was still in shock, but Wang Yu had already caught up to him. He reached out to catch the scepter in midair, and with a backhand swing, smashed it into Willie's face. This move of Wang Yu's was called Fleeting Glance. It was hard yet nimble. At this time, Wang Yu had used 100% of his strength, causing Willie's body to shake violently. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. An expert like Wang Yu had always been able to kill with a single blow. Hand, continuous, not giving the opponent the slightest chance to retaliate. Seeing that Willie had lost his balance after being hit by his own scepter, Wang Yu lowered his head and bent down, casually swinging his scepter at Willie's knee. Willie was already about to fall, and with another blow from Wang Yu, he fell to the ground with his back facing the sky. Wang Yu took the opportunity to step on Willie's back. She raised her scepter and smashed it towards the back of Willie's head one after the other. Without his 12 paladin underlings, Willie was really useless. Of course, calling Willie trash was only to Wang Yu. After all, this guy had single-handedly killed the dragon blood spear god of the same level. Although Willie was a BSS, under Wang Yu's relentless attacks, he couldn't find a chance to recover. He couldn't even get up, so he could only shake his head left and right in an attempt to dodge the attacks, and at the same time, shake Wang Yu off him. Unfortunately, Willie wasn't a close combat BSS, and his combat skills were terrible. Let alone Wang Yu. He couldn't even compare to the dragon blood spear god. Under Wang Yu's endless staff shadows, no amount of movement was superfluous. Yang Na was flabbergasted as she watched Wang Yu's vicious smashing. Yang Na had exchanged blows with Willie before, and naturally knew how strong he was. As a martial artist from one of the 4 great clans, Yang Na was quite proud of her own skills. Before she had met Wang Yu's name was already well known in the martial arts circles. Since young, Yang Na's parents had instilled in her that little brat from the Wang family is so badass, causing Yang Na to feel an indescribable resistance towards this other people's kid. Yang Na had always thought that no matter how much of a genius Wang Yu was, he was still only 20 years old. Furthermore, her own talent wasn't bad, and she had been training hard. How could she be left far behind by him? In the end, after witnessing Wang Yu's skills today, Yang Na was completely convinced. Back when Yang Na had challenged Willie, she had lost her weapon in less than 3 rounds. After that, she had been chased around like a dog. Now, Wang Yu had beaten Willie until he was at his wit's end. Then, she had trampled him to the ground and abused him in various ways. The difference between the two of them was obvious. When it came to martial arts, although it was said that hard work could make up for one's lack of talent, hard work was not something that could be made up for. Furthermore, Wang Yu had been training in martial arts since he was young, and he wasn't as lazy as Yang Na. It was completely reasonable for him to have such achievements. Why are you looking at me? Did you find what you wanted? Wang Yu felt Yang Na's burning gaze and turned his head to ask. No, I didn't find it. Yang Na quivered and said as she recovered from her thoughts. Oh, then take your time to find it. As Wang Yu spoke, he waved his scepter to hit the boss beneath his feet, appearing to be doing it with ease. Seeing this, Yang Na felt even more sullen. A string of numbers appeared above Judge Willie's head. Willie was beaten beyond recognition. As Wang Yu's attacks did not stop, Willie's recovery skills could not be used. Willie's health rapidly decreased, and when it reached 30, Wang Yu smiled and jumped backwards, dodging to the side. After hitting so many boss, Wang Yu naturally knew that when the boss reached 30, it would use its ultimate skill, and Wang Yu had been waiting for this moment. Just as Wang Yu expected, when his health reached 30, Willie's body flashed with a holy light, and he stood up for the ground like a zombie. Under the holy light, Willie's swollen face, which had been beaten by Wang Yu, recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. Dirty Heretic. Chapter 124. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. Angel of Judgment, Pseudo, Gold Boss, Elite, Skills, Heaven's Cross / Holy Feathers, Light of Judgment, Literature Building, hee. Seeing Judge Willie transform into Angel of Judgment, Wang Yu laughed. Wang Yu's guess was right. Judge Willie's second transformation, Angel's Descent, would be like this. The so-called wings of holy light must be the pair of wings on his back. After Angel of Judgment's transformation was completed, he put his palms together and slowly separated them. A sword with the shape of a cross slowly formed between his palms. Holy Magic Stone. Yang Na saw the stone on the hilt of Angel of Judgment's sword and cried out. No wonder he couldn't find the Holy Magic Stone anywhere. It turned out that Judge Willie's sword could only be summoned after his second transformation. Bear the wrath of God. The Angel of Judgment grasped the hilt of the sword with both hands and swung it in the air. Two sword energies intersected like a cross, tearing through the air and slashing over. Wang Yu bent his body and twisted his hips, making a very strange posture. He flipped over and dodged the attack. The cross-shaped sword energy flew straight towards Yang Na, who was behind Wang Yu. Yang Na was still looking at the sword in Angel of Judgment hand. She only reacted when the sword energy flew in front of her. Just as Yang Na was about to be chopped into two, her vision suddenly darkened. A large foot had landed on the left side of Yang Na's face, sending her flying. The sword energy slashed the marble table behind Yang Na, and the sturdy table was neatly cut in half. F***CK. What are you thinking? After Wang Yu retracted his leg, he pointed at Yang Na and said angrily, Do you know you wasted my teleportation? F***CK. Yang Na covered her left cheek and gave Wang Yu the middle finger. Damn it. Her father had never hit her since she was young. This grandson Wang Yu actually kicked her face and blamed her for wasting his skill. A woman's face was more important than her life. If it wasn't for the fact that Wang Yu did this to save her, Yang Na would have already pounced on him and fought him. The Angel of Judgment waved his long sword again and again. The cross slash seemed to be free, cutting all the tables and chairs in the hall into pieces. Wang Yu was a martial artist, and Yang Na's footwork was incomparably profound. Even in the face of such a dense barrage of attacks, they were still able to move with great difficulty. However, as the sword chi increased, the two of them would not be able to hold on for long. What should we do? Yang Na asked Wang Yu as the two of them hid behind a stone pillar. The Angel of Judgment's sword energy was extremely sharp, and it was definitely not something that the two of them could block. Now, the two of them were in a completely passive state and could only take one step at a time. Do you see that statue? Wang Yu pointed at the God of Light and said, That's the only thing in the hall that he doesn't dare to cut. Let's go behind the statue. I don't think so. Yang Na measured the distance. The two of them were at least 400 yards away from the statue. An archer's evasion skill only had a range of 50 yards. A distance of 400 yards, with the speed of an ordinary player, would take at least 4 seconds to run. Even if Yang Na was an archer with high speed and strange body movements, in the face of such a dense barrage of attacks, it would be a dream to even think about crossing it. You go for 50 yards first, leave the rest to me. Wang Yu said, Can you do it? You won't sell me, right? Yang Na asked doubtfully. Wang Yu was only a grandmaster of combat, and his speed was far inferior to an archer. Even if Wang Yu had the teleport skill, he could not teleport with others. Moreover, with this brat Wang Yu's past behavior, the probability of him using himself as a shield was relatively high. Am I that kind of person? Wang Yu said angrily. Nonsense, you just abandoned me and ran. This woman still remembered the incident just now. There was a reason for what happened just now. Now you have to try even if you don't want to. Wang Yu pointed to the stone pillar. Yang Na looked up, only to see the sword Qi colliding with the stone pillar, shattering it into pieces. It was an imminent danger. Since she was going to die either way, she might as well give it a try. Yang Na gritted her teeth and said, "I'll believe you for once. If I die, you must help me pick up the demonic holy stone." "Don't worry, you won't die. May the light God bless." Yang Na dodged and dashed out of the range of the stone pillar. The sword Qi whistled through the air. Suddenly, Wang Yu jumped forward and activated Collapsing Fist. His other hand reached out to grab Yang Na's arm, and the two of them rushed behind the statue. The Grandmaster of Combat skills were more flexible. Under free mode, the skills could be released in any position. However, Wang Yu could be considered the first to use Collapsing Fist to teleport someone. Only a noob like him would dare to do so. Fortunately, Wang Yu's gamble paid off. The displacement of Collapsing Fist could actually teleport someone. However, the teleportation of Collapsing Fist was 500 yards. Now that it was carrying someone, its power dropped drastically. It didn't even reach 300 yards before it stopped. "It's over. Quickly teleport." Yang Na's heart was filled with despair. If Wang Yu also died, her mission would be a complete failure. "No hurry," Wang Yu chuckled. He hugged Yang Na with both hands and suddenly leaned forward. Wang Yu was tall, while Yang Na was petite. With Wang Yu's arms around her, Yang Na was completely protected. The sword Qi fell densely on Wang Yu's body, and a golden Qi guard was formed. The light god statue was close at hand. Wang Yu carried Yang Na and fell behind the statue. The Qi guard's effect had not lost its effect yet. After landing, Wang Yu wiped his sweat and said, "It's time to lose weight. You are so King heavy. Fortunately, I have a backup plan. Otherwise, it would be over." A Grandmaster of Combat was not a profession that excelled in strength. Wang Yu also felt powerless when he carried a person and used his skills. "You are the one who is heavy. Your whole family is heavy." Yang Na flew into a rage out of humiliation. This grandson really didn't know how to speak. How could he say that a girl was fat and heavy? "I'm heavy, okay? Then you have to get up quickly. You are about to crush me to death." Wang Yu pushed Yang Na violently with both his arms. "With the F***CK, are you touching?" Wang Yu. In midair, the Angel of Judgment who had lost his target also stopped his endless attacks. He stared at the light god statue. His eyes were sharp, but he didn't dare to make a move. He doesn't dare to fight anymore. "Shoot him," Wang Yu said as he took out his gun and aimed at the Angel of Judgment. The Angel of Judgment was slightly stunned, and his face showed an angry expression. Yang Na saw that the Angel of Judgment really didn't dare to attack, so she took out her crossbow and shot. After being shot by Wang Yu, the Angel of Judgment was already prepared. He waved his long sword and cut Yang Na's arrow into 2 pieces. Then, the Angel of Judgment wiped the blade with his other hand, and a golden light covered the blade. "Judgment!" The Angel of Judgment waved his sword again. The sword light passed through the god's statue and slashed. F***CK. Wang Yu and Yang Na quickly dodged, and the sword light hit the ground and disappeared. Wang Yu immediately said, "The cross slash just now was a physical attack. This is a judgment magic attack." "And then?" "What and then?" Wang Yu asked in a daze. "What's the use of dividing the attack? How should I dodge? How would I know?" Ouch! Another sword light fell, and Wang Yu rolled on the ground and dodged again. While rolling, Wang Yu saw the action of the Angel of Judgment wiping his sword before launching the sword energy. Wang Yu smiled slightly. "I know how to fight." P.S. Asking for recommendation votes. It's the college entrance examination season again. Uncle Neo suddenly wanted to say a few words. "I'm definitely not pretending. People have 3 opportunities to change their luck: reincarnation, study, marriage. Study is the only opportunity that can be controlled by oneself. Don't listen to others advocating that studying is useless." Uncle Neo can clearly tell everyone that studying doesn't necessarily make people successful, but studying can increase people's chances of success. Don't be superstitious about successful entrepreneurs without studying, unless you think of yourself as a protagonist like Wu Jizhong. Chapter 125. Since the Angel of Judgment's judgment was a magic skill, there was an additional action of wiping the sword compared to cross-slash. Wang Yu and Yang Na were behind the statue, and the Angel of Judgment did not dare to use cross-slash. As long as the Angel of Judgment's casting action could be interrupted, the Angel of Judgment would not be able to release the skill, and the Angel of Judgment could only be beaten. The casting action was similar to a thief's stealth. It could only be interrupted by a force displacement or the user's own casting action. Long-range attacks would probably not work. Wang Yu's musket hit the Angel of Judgment's face, but the Angel of Judgment did not even flinch. Interrupting the skill was definitely not reliable. The boss in freestyle mode was likely to return a sword aura during the shooting interval. It would not be worth it. Do you want the Holy Mana Stone? Wang Yu asked Yang Na. Yes. Wang Yu said, I will go out to restrain him. You can take the opportunity to shoot him. Can you do it? Yang Na glanced at the angel in midair and asked Wang Yu worriedly. She really could not imagine how a short-range pugilist like Wang Yu could restrain a flying angel. After the previous battle, Yang Na could already tell that if it wasn't for Wang Yu, she wouldn't have been able to kill the boss. She might not even have been able to escape. Therefore, when Wang Yu said that she wanted to restrain the boss, Yang Na was a little worried. I have my ways. With that, Wang Yu rushed out. When the Angel of Judgment saw Wang Yu coming out, it waved its sword and was about to use cross-slash. However, Wang Yu slightly moved and stuck his back to the statue. The Angel of Judgment's movement stopped abruptly, and it reached out to touch the sword, about to release judgment. This is the moment I was waiting for. Wang Yu pulled out his staff and jumped forward. When he was in midair, Wang Yu switched his weapon to a glove and pulled the Angel of Judgment into his arms, interrupting the Angel of Judgment's casting. Yang Na's arrows also whizzed towards the Angel of Judgment's head. Yang Na's equipment wasn't bad. Now that she was equipped with a dark gold crossbow, her attack power was greatly increased. After a round of skills, the Angel of Judgment lost a lot of HP. Wang Yu did not have a flight skill, so Knee Strike's grab only lasted for 15 seconds. After that, Wang Yu fell to the ground. The Angel of Judgment's body flashed. He gritted his teeth and swung his sword down, slashing at Wang Yu. Wang Yu sent out his chi wave, and his body retreated slightly. He used the thunder steps to forcefully land on the ground and somersaulted back to the front of the statue. The Angel of Judgment's body rose by 2 meters, and it casually swiped to the blade. Wang Yu sneered, 500 yards. This is the maximum range of the Light of Judgment. Thinking of this, Wang Yu rushed out again, still using his staff as support. His right hand slapped upwards, and a white gas shot out, wrapping around the Angel of Judgment's ankle. The Angel of Judgment was pulled back by Wang Yu, and his skill was interrupted again. Yang Na's arrow once again hit the Angel of Judgment's body. Wang Yu currently had 3 force displacement skills: Iron Mountain Crusher, Cloud Grasp, and Knee Strike. The 3 skills cooldowns were not long, so he could use them in turn. The Angel of Judgment was more sullen. He did not dare to use physical attacks, nor could he use magic attacks. He was like a target, being ravaged by Wang Yu and Yang Na in various ways. The Angel of Judgment only had 90,000 HP. Under the cooperation of 2 experts, it was quickly beaten to a pulp. At this time, the Angel of Judgment's body once again rose by 2 meters. At the same time, his body shone brightly, and he raised his sword and chanted. Yang Na hurriedly said, "Come back, he's going to use his ultimate skill." Got it. Wang Yu nodded his head. He did not retreat, but instead moved forward. He jumped behind the Angel of Judgment, then grabbed the Angel of Judgment's neck with his right elbow and pulled back. Before the Angel of Judgment could use his ultimate skill, his neck was broken by Wang Yu and turned into holy light. World announcement. You Huicheng players, Iron Ox, and Qingxue have killed the Gold Elite SS Angel of Judgment in Sky Dragon City and achieved the first kill, advancing 1 step further on the road to becoming strong. System notification. You have killed the SS Angel of Judgment and obtained 0 experience. System notification. You have killed the Light Faction SS, Angel of Judgment, and obtained the title God Slayer. Holy Light City Honor, 200, currently Hatred. Light Faction Favorability, 200, currently Hatred. God Slayer, 20 Spirit, 20 Intelligence, has a restraining effect on Light-type monsters. Yang Na received the same message, but her experience was not locked. The experience gained from killing the SS allowed her to level up. F*CK, why didn't you use this skill just now? Yang Na complained. Wang Yu curled his lips. He had so much HP just now, and he was even in combat mode. Wouldn't I be seeking death if I used this skill? Yang Na said angrily. Then do you know that the last hit can give you 50 experience? Stealing kills is too despicable. When the word experience was mentioned, Wang Yu's face darkened. He looked at his status window and did not dare to say anything. Yang Na was obviously a petty girl. If she knew that Wang Yu was harming others without benefiting himself, who knew what she would do? Because the Angel of Judgment was the quest boss that Wang Yu had triggered, the two of them spent a lot of effort but did not get any equipment. They only got 3 quest items. Holy Light Wings. Quest item Holy Mana Stone. Quest item Radiant Badge. Quest item Wang Yu knew what was going on with the Wings of Holy Light and the demonic stone, but this radiant emblem was baffling. But at this moment, the two of them were not in the mood to think about it, because they received another system notification. System notification. You have received a mandatory quest. Escape from the Holy City. Quest rank A. Before leaving the Holy City, you will be chased by Holy City players. If you fail, all quest items will be dropped. The moment they received the quest, a map appeared in front of Wang Yu and Eternal Silence. There were 2 red dots on the map, representing Wang Yu and Eternal Silence, and green dots representing the other players in Holy City. When Wang Yu killed the Angel of Judgment, the Royal Root, players were still resurrecting and ravaging the Paladin. When they heard the world announcement, they were immediately stunned. That bitch actually killed the Angel of Judgment. Eternal Silence was in disbelief. An angel was a level 200 ultimate existence. How could it be killed by a player at this stage? The next 2 system notifications disrupted Eternal Silence's thoughts. System notification. Your guild has received a special quest. The truth will come to light. Quest rank. None. Thanks to God's grace, you have captured the true culprit who provoked God's might. Your sins have been cleared, and all main city honor points have been restored. Chapter 126. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. Eternal Dawn felt very complicated when he saw the system notification. Literature building. This was especially true for the first mission. Eternal Silence felt as if he had been raped by the system. The system notification said that only by catching the culprit could his guild's honor be restored. Didn't that mean that if he couldn't catch the culprit, he would have to take the blame? Damn, the system clearly knew that he was wronged, but it still wanted him to be the scapegoat. This was too F*King despicable. The reward of the second mission was undoubtedly very tempting, but when he saw the players outside the revival point looking away from him and towards the direction of Holy Court, Eternal Dawn guessed that this was a mission for everyone. Wang Yu and Feng Ling were extremely cunning. Now that other players were involved, it would be much more difficult for Imperial City to catch the 2 of them. Eternal Dawn didn't need to mention the feeling in his heart. No matter how helpless he was, he had to bite the bullet. At this moment, Eternal Dawn received the notification that young Master Ling and young Master Feng were online, and he felt a little better. Where should we go? Wang Yu and Yang Na ran out of Holy Court and found that the streets were already filled with players. Yang Na looked at the green dots all over the map that were continuously surrounding them and tugged at Wang Yu's shirt. Martial artists weren't superhumans, and Yang Na was a girl. Seeing the dense crowd, she couldn't help but feel a little afraid, so she couldn't help but place her hopes on Wang Yu. Yang Na was rather impressed by Wang Yu's strength. Although Wang Yu had asked for her help to kill the angel boss, Yang Na knew that even without her, Wang Yu could still grind the boss to death. This kind of strength made Yang Na feel inferior. Literature building. Wang Yu looked around and said, "If it's me, I can still escape, but I can't bring you along. You won't leave me behind, right?" Yang Na said in shock. Wang Yu nodded and said, "Not at the moment. Give me the Holy Mana Stone." "Okay." Yang Na took out the demonic Holy Stone and handed it to Wang Yu. It was safer to leave the demonic Holy Stone with Wang Yu. After putting the demonic Holy Stone into his bag, Wang Yu pointed to the weakest point on the west side and said, "Kill our way out from there. Cover me." As he spoke, Wang Yu accelerated his collapsing fist and rushed towards the direction of the finger. Yang Na did not dare to delay and followed closely behind Wang Yu. When the players saw that Wang Yu dared to rush over, they were in an uproar. They had at least a few dozen people on their side, and Wang Yu still dared to rush forward. He was simply looking down on them. Attack! No one knew who shouted, but an endless barrage of ranged attacks rained down on Wang Yu. If these players were brothers of the same guild, they would advance and retreat in an orderly fashion, and Wang Yu would feel some pressure. However, the players of the Holy City's major guilds were still at the resurrection point, so most of these players were just a motley crew. Wang Yu grabbed and blocked with both hands. Before the arrows could reach Wang Yu caught them in his hands. Then, with a wave of Wang Yu's hand, the arrows flew out and scattered the ice cones and fireballs that were flying towards him. At the same time, Yang Na raised her bow and shot. While these players were still in shock, the magicians at the back had already been killed by Yang Na. Before the players could launch their second round of attacks, Wang Yu had already arrived in front of them. What kind of expert was Wang Yu? Even a tank like Hua Xiao could not withstand two of his attacks. How could these motley crew be worth mentioning? Throat choke, side kick, elbow strike, knee strike. Under the cover of Yang Na's bow and arrows, Wang Yu managed to open up a gap in the formation of players on the west side. F***CK. After creating an opening, Wang Yu did not have time to escape and was immediately dumbfounded players. The entire street was packed with players. Wang Yu had seen such a scene before. To move unhindered to cause trouble in Yu Huicheng, there were only about 10,000 players. At that time, it was already a sea of people. At this time, it was even more crowded than before. Apart from the players, there were no other creatures on the main road. People often talked about how great an army was, but that was just an adjective. Seeing tens of thousands of people in real life, even an expert like Wang Yu could not help but be moved. Charging at tens of thousands of people alone? Don't joke around. This book is very strict. Not to mention that these were all players with combat skills. Even tens of thousands of stray dogs could make Wang Yu's hands go limp. Moreover, these players walked in an orderly formation. The badges on their chests were also neat and uniform. One look, and one could tell that they were guild players. Wang Yu was no longer a beginner in the game. Naturally, he knew that these guild players were not very skilled individually. Once they united, they were very powerful. The arrow formation, magic formation, and shield formation of the guild players were not something that Wang Yu dared to face head-on. What should we do? Yang Na was also frightened when she saw this scene. What kind of sin did they commit to be ganged up on by tens of thousands of people? Let's wait and see. Wang Yu was also helpless. The encirclement of the players was getting smaller and smaller. Step by step, Wang Yu and Yang Na were forced to the foot of the wall. However, none of the players made a move. It was not that they did not want to, but that they did not dare to. The reward of 200 honor points was undoubtedly very tempting. However, there were only two enemies. No one would willingly hand over the honor points that they had earned. At this time, Wang Yu and Yang Na were like a pile of gold. Everyone wanted them, but the bandits were not in the same group. No matter who made the first move against the two, they would probably be killed by the other players accidentally. Therefore, Wang Yu and Yang Na were in a relatively safe situation. It was just that they were being watched by tens of thousands of people, which made them feel uncomfortable. The players glared at each other. None of them wanted to be the first to take the lead. Just as everyone was in a deadlock, a middle-aged player suddenly walked out of the group. He cupped his hands and said to the other players, "I am you wanting from Safflower's headquarters. We can't go on like this. Shouldn't we discuss who these two bandits belong to?" F***CK. Wang Yu glared at Yu Wanting angrily. Yu Wanting was treating him like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. He would be the first one to be slaughtered. At the same time, Wang Yu sent a signal to the people in Chuanjin. What should we do if we are being chased? Everyone, kill if there are few, run if there are many. Wu Ji was the first to reply. This had always been Chuanjin's way of doing things, and it was also something that Wang Yu liked to do. What if we are surrounded by tens of thousands of people? Wang Yu asked again. Everyone was shocked. Surrounded by tens of thousands of people. The biggest PK since the game's launch was caused by this kid. It had only been a day, and he was already surpassing himself? After a long while, Mingdu said, F***CK. Iron Ox, are you born in the year of SH**T? Wherever you go, people will step on you. All hail the Ox God. To be killed by tens of thousands of people, what kind of glory is that? If it were me, it would be enough for me to brag for a long time. Yin Lao Air exclaimed. He didn't expect this guy to have that kind of inclination. Ming Jian Daoxue was the most honest. He advised Wang Yu, if you really can't do it, just die once. It's not shameful to die in the game. Wang Yu sighed and said, Sigh, I can't die. If I die, the quest item will drop. Wang Yu briefly explained the matter of him being chased. Wu Ji pondered for a while and said, Stall for time. Someone will come to save you soon. Who? Wang Yu asked in confusion. It would take half an hour to get from Yu Huicheng to Holy Light City. The people in Chuanjin weren't even enough to fill the gaps between their teeth. Even if they could help, these players probably wouldn't wait for half an hour. Wu Ji said, Don't worry, you'll know in a while. P.S. It will be released on the 10th. Has everyone prepared their recommendation tickets? Ready to cast. Speaking of which, is there a reward for releasing more than 10 chapters? What about 30 chapters? What about 50 chapters? Of course, I'm just kidding. In a few days, Teacher Nyo will be invigilating the exam. Teacher Nyo will be with the students. Chapter 127. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. Red Flower Guild was ranked 5th in the Chinese server and 17th in the global gaming guild rankings. It was famous in the gaming circle. In this day and age where competitive gaming had become a profession, these high-end professional players were not only famous in the professional circle, but they were also as famous as A-list celebrities in society. The boss of Safflower's headquarters, Yu Wanting, was his real name. It was said that he had been using this ID ever since he started playing games. Because this ID had the same name as a minor character in a wuxia novel many years ago, Yu Wanting had set up Safflower's headquarters in an extremely flashy manner. Red Flower Guild's original nature was similar to Chuanjin, just a small group. However, after years of hard work by Yu Wanting, it rose to the top 5 of the Chinese server and became a dazzling gaming guild. It was a classic example of a grassroots counterattack. Safflower's headquarters had achieved such success not only because of Yu Wanting's excellent management skills, but also because of his incredible personal strength. Although he couldn't compare to existences like the War God and the Archmage God, he could still squeeze into the top 30 of the competitive professional player leaderboards. Of course, this was the glory of Red Flower Guild in the past. Ever since Rebirth, this brand new model and the influx of a large number of R&B players had caused the top guilds in the country to be reshuffled. Safflower's headquarters, which used to be majestic and awe-inspiring in the past, was actually suppressed by an unknown imperial city route in the Holy City. There was no other reason other than the fact that money was the most valuable thing in the world. Arguing with this kind of rich second generation who didn't lack money was simply asking for trouble, but the tiger was dead. No matter how weak Red Flower Guild was, other than the 4 bosses of Royal Roots in Holy City, Yu Wanting's words were still very powerful. For example, now that Yu Wanting stood up and said that he wanted to resolve this peacefully, no guild dared to object. Bossy, what do you think? Someone had already started to respond to Yu Wanting's suggestion. Yu Wanting smiled and replied, I'm willing to buy this mission. Buying missions was not uncommon in online games. For example, a 2-way mission. The simplest way to resolve it was to offer a reasonable price for the other party to back out. He, How much is boss you willing to pay? How about one person and one gold coin? At this moment, a cold voice was heard into the ears of the tens of thousands of people present. Of course, it was not because that person's internal energy was strong, but because he had used the system item, the sound transmission megaphone. Each sound transmission speaker cost 10 silver coins. Ordinary players were reluctant to use it. 1 gold coin. Everyone fell silent. Now that the price of gold had dropped, the market price was still more than $900 apiece. If Safflower's headquarters was willing to pay 1 gold coin, no one would reject it. After all, there were only 2 enemies, and the probability of 1 in 10,000 was too high. They might as well take the ready-made one. 1 gold coin? What a big appetite! Yuaning coldly replied with a megaphone. There were tens of thousands of people present. Exchanging tens of thousands of gold coins for 200 honor points? Yuaning wasn't a moron. If you don't have money, then why are you still acting cool? The man used his megaphone again and directly led his men to stand opposite Yuaning. Everyone became restless. In the entire Holy Light City, there were only 4 people who dared to speak to Yuaning like this. At this moment, there were 2 people standing opposite Yuaning. One was a sorcerer, and the other was a warrior. They were the other 2 prodigals of the roots of the royal city, young Master Feng of the capital and young Master Ling of the capital. Young Master Feng and young Master Ling were having fun outside when they received a call saying that Yuaning dared to bring people to attack their own guild. So, they left their girls outside and went home to play. Men were the most shameless. Their plans were ruined by Yuaning, so of course they wouldn't be nice. Yuaning's expression changed slightly when he saw the 2 of them. However, Old Yu was the boss of the guild, so he naturally didn't want to lose face. So, young Master Feng and young Master Ling can afford it? Yuaning was indeed a wily old fox. With one move, he threw the ball to the 2 prodigals. Young Master Feng and young Master Ling were both famous R&B players. They naturally didn't lack money, but spending tens of thousands of gold coins to buy a mission was not out of their minds. Young Master Feng glanced at Yuaning and said, "We're not here for a mission. We're here for revenge." After saying that, young Master Feng pointed at Wang Yu arrogantly and said, "Hey, are you the one who snatched young Master Hua's scepter?" If it were any other time, young Master Feng would have been beaten to death by Wang Yu if he dared to speak to Wang Yu like this. However, Wu Ji told Wang Yu to wait patiently for reinforcements. Of course, Wang Yu wouldn't break this peaceful situation. "It's me," Wang Yu said calmly. At the same time, young Master Feng was also blacklisted by him. "See that?" Young Master Feng smiled and said to Yuaning, he admitted it himself, "So we should kill these 2 people." Yuanting's face darkened as he shouted, "Young Master Feng, you're wrong. If you want to take revenge, you can do it at any time. Why do you have to do it now? Does our roots of the royal city need time to take revenge?" Young Master Feng asked. "Then you have to ask the tens of thousands of players in Holy Light City," Yuaning said coldly. "Don't think that your royal city route is the only one in Holy City." When Yuaning said this, he purposely used a megaphone and pushed royal city route to the tens of thousands of players in front of them. Immediately after, Yuaning said, "Do you want to steal the quest without doing anything today?" "Absolutely not." Yuaning knew that Royal City Route didn't lack money. It would be best if he could force Royal City Route to retreat. Even if he couldn't, it would be great if he could make Royal City Route bleed. The players were already dissatisfied with Royal City Route's barbaric behavior. Now that Yuaning added fuel to the fire, they were all filled with righteous indignation. "That's right, Guildmaster Yu is right. This quest is a citywide quest. Whoever dares to steal it from us will have their turn until they reach level 10. Seeing such a big reaction from the players, young Master Feng and young Master Ling also panicked. Even a super fighter like Wang Yu didn't dare to fight to the death with tens of thousands of players. Of course, they didn't dare to get involved in a war between the people. Just as the 2 were panicking, Wang Yu, who had been treated as a commodity, spoke. "Hey, are you 2 stupid?" Young Master Feng and young Master Ling glared at Wang Yu and said, "Do you have the right to speak here?" Wang Yu didn't care about the pretentiousness of these two people who were about to die. Instead, he smiled at Yu Wanting and said, "You guys are so rich. Are you not willing to spend a few gold coins to buy his life?" Huh? The two looked at each other and said, "That makes sense." Hearing what Wang Yu said, Yu Wanting was instantly dumbfounded. He didn't think that Wang Yu, who was originally a fish on the chopping board, would actually bite back at him. Young Master Feng, young Master Ling, don't listen to his instigation. At this time, we should kill them first. Yu Wanting hurriedly waved his hands as he retreated. Just now, they were almost killed by Yu Wanting. At this time, the hatred these two profligates had for Yu Wanting was far greater than their hatred for Wang Yu. Young Master Feng's face immediately darkened and said, "It doesn't matter if you die." At the same time, young Master Ling sent out a megaphone. Reward announcement. Killing a Safflower Headquarters player will reward 5 gold coins. Killing Yu Wanting once will reward 10 gold coins. No limit on the number of times. It's a reward quest. 10 gold coins. All the players' eyes lit up when they heard this. P.S. Hello everyone. This is an automatic update. Teacher Neo hasn't gotten off work yet. Chapter 128. Genius 1 Second Remember. Providing you with exciting novels to read. Bounty quests were a type of quest in Rebirth. They were mostly issued by players, and the system was impartial. As long as the quest was completed, the gold coins would automatically land in the player's bag. From this, it could be seen that the 4 young masters of Holy Light were not brainless rich kids. There were only 500 players in Safflower's headquarters, and even if they were all killed, it would only cost them a few thousand gold coins. The people in Safflower's headquarters were not stupid. They knew that they were being chased, and once they were killed, they would naturally avoid the brunt of the attack. Just like that, with Wang Yu's guidance, young Master Feng and young Master Ling spent less than 1/10 of the price to send all their competitors away. But the other players did not think so. 10 gold coins. In this era where gold coins were scarce, players who had more than 1 gold coin on them were collectively known as high-end players. If they had not gambled with their lives not too long ago, the experts in Xuanjin would only have a few gold coins on them. To these normal players, 10 gold coins was definitely a huge sum of money. Besides, there was no limit to the number of times this quest could be completed. In other words, as long as they killed a player from Safflower's headquarters once, they would receive gold coins. It was more than 100 times easier than the illusory 200 honor points. For a time, all the players on the street were in an uproar. Their gazes moved from Wang Yu to Yu Wanting and the players from Safflower's headquarters. Yu Wanting and his subordinates also tasted the feeling of being stared at by tens of thousands of people. Everyone charge. Wang Yu charged forward and arrived in front of Yu Wanting. Before Yu Wanting knew what was going on, Wang Yu stretched out his hand, grabbed, and threw the terrified Yu Wanting into the crowd of players. The players swarmed over like a school of fish fighting for food. Yu Wanting was an expert and the leader of a guild, but now he had died a tragic death. At the same time, Wang Yu sent Yang Na a private message. Run! Without another word, Yang Na mustered all her strength and ran through the gaps between the players to the alley next door, while the players chased after the people from Safflower's headquarters. Young Master Feng had been watching Wang Yu and young Master Ling's movements. When he saw that Yang Na was about to run, he turned pale with fright and hurriedly ordered his subordinates, "Capture her!" Royal City Route players, who had been quiet all this time, received the order and immediately chased after Yang Na. Wait! At this moment, Wang Yu extended his staff, blocking the path of the Royal City Route players. Oh, what do you mean by that? Seeing Wang Yu's actions, young Master Feng and young Master Ling couldn't help but laugh. A mere Grandmaster of Combat dared to stop so many of them with just a stick. Did he really think he was a monkey? Wang Yu smiled. Just come at me if you have any problems. Show off. Kill him. Young Master Feng snorted coldly and shot an icicle at Wang Yu's face. Young Master Ling also activated charge and took the lead to slash at Wang Yu with his sword. Since the boss had made a move, the lackeys naturally wouldn't stay idle. They launched all kinds of attacks at Wang Yu. Wang Yu swung his staff and knocked away the arrows flying towards him. He then leaped up and blocked the soldier's charge. Literature building. The priority of charge was quite high. Even if he used the block skill and jumped up to offset the force, Wang Yu's HP still dropped by a large amount. But using the force of charge, Wang Yu flew backwards. His staff propped up on the ground and bounced Wang Yu back like a bow. Wang Yu found young Masterling's position in midair and forcefully landed with a thunderstomp. At the same time, young Masterling turned into a white light and pushed back the enemies around him. With a backhand chi wave, Wang Yu leaped up again. Young Master Phone was a mage. At this time, young Master Phone was chanting in the back. Suddenly, his vision went black and a dirty staff stabbed into young Master Feng's mouth. Young Master Phone was instantly killed. After killing these two people, before Wang Yu landed on the ground, he pushed down the staff in his hand and jumped onto the wall. Then, he stepped on the wall and rushed up a few meters before activating Night, Jump, and flying to the roof. The people at the Royal City route were all dumbfounded. As the capital of the human race, the buildings in the Holy City were much grander than those in other cities. The walls on both sides were more than 10 meters tall. Wang Yu's leap actually made it onto the walls more than 10 meters. That was outside the archer's shooting range. The players could only watch as Wang Yu sat on the roof with his legs dangling. There was nothing they could do. Looking at the densely packed players below him, Wang Yu let out a long sigh and sent a message to Wuji. "Damn it, why aren't the reinforcements here yet?" Wuji replied, "You're still in a mood to talk nonsense with me when the reinforcements aren't here. I'm wise and strong. I provoked the two guilds into fighting, and then I used my wits to escape," Wang Yu said proudly. Compared to Wang Yu, Wuji's skills were average, but he had a lot of dirty ideas. This time, Wang Yu relied on his own ideas to escape, so he felt quite accomplished. Hee. Wuji laughed coldly. "So the guild that you used as a gun is the reinforcements." F***ck. Wang Yu suddenly came back to his senses. So he had been tricked by this B****start again. Wuji continued, "Hurry up and run. Otherwise, when they react, you won't have a second chance." Wang Yu closed the chat window and sent a message to Yang Na. "Did you escape? We're almost at the teleportation point." Yang Na said, "All right, wait for me. I'll be there soon." After sending the message, Wang Yu opened up the map. After confirming the location of Yang Na's red dot, he ran over. There were many streets in the Holy City, and Yang Na had a map in her hand. She easily lost the people following her. When they were only a few dozen meters away from the teleportation point, a figure descended from the sky, giving Yang Na a fright. She raised her crossbow and was about to shoot. However, when she saw the person's face, Yang Na put down the crossbow in her hand. In this vast, holy light city, the only person who could descend from the sky was Hero Wang Yu. F***ck. How are you so fast? Yang Na exclaimed. Hee, I can fly. Wang Yu pointed to the roof. He walked in a straight line from above, so it was naturally much faster. Will you die if you don't pretend? Yang Na rolled her eyes at Wang Yu. Wang Yu ignored Yang Na's disdain and stretched out his hand. Don't care if I pretend or not. After the mission is completed, give me back my weapon. What if I don't? The holy magic stone is with me. Wang Yu said, You're shameless. Yang Na sighed from the bottom of her heart. You flatter me. Compared to some people, I still have a long way to go. Wang Yu smiled. Once upon a time, he was also a pure and innocent flower. I'll pay for it, okay? Yang Na was still reluctant to give the crossbow to Wang Yu. This crossbow had high attack and high attack speed, and it was currently the #1 divine weapon in the game. Yang Na was very comfortable with it. You can first, F***ck. Before Wang Yu could finish speaking, he suddenly heard the sound of wind behind him. He quickly dodged, and a spear came crashing down on Wang Yu's ear. For justice? The spear wielder roared, and the spear turned into a horizontal sweep. Wang Yu leaped forward and rolled, dodging the sweep of the spear. At the same time, he saw the person who attacked him. A body of bright silver armor, a resolute expression, and an indomitable aura. It was the guardian of the main city, Big Brother Guard. P.S. I'm updating automatically. Uncle Nyo hasn't gotten off work yet, so there might only be 2 updates today. However, he still had to be thick-skinned and ask for recommendation votes. Chapter 129. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. Guards, Wang Yu immediately revealed a look of fear. He had seen the ferocity of this brainless soldier. Thinking back to when he was in Yu Huicheng, the soldiers all treated him like a boss. In Holy Light City, however, he was being attacked by a soldier. Wang Yu felt like he had lived 2 lives. Literature building. The soldier seemed to only have eyes for Wang Yu. He charged forward and slashed at Wang Yu's body. This was an existence that was even more unreasonable than the final boss. Only a monster like Wang Yu could handle it. If it was anyone else, they wouldn't even be able to last 1 round. Wang Yu jumped and teleported. It took him a lot of effort to crawl to the teleportation point. In the end, Wang Yu wanted to vomit blood. The teleportation NPC told Wang Yu humorously, "You don't have enough honor points. You can't use the teleportation circle. F***CK." Wang Yu cursed as he looked at the guards who were chasing after him. Then, he turned around and ran. The soldier was indeed a system follower. With a wave of his hand, a sword aura shot towards Wang Yu. Wang Yu rolled forward and rolled to Yang Na's side. "Why isn't he hitting you?" Wang Yu asked in confusion as he dodged the soldier's attack. Yang Na said, "Maybe I'm wearing a mask to hide my identity." "Oh." Wang Yu was slightly surprised. "Are you registered here? Am I stupid?" "Of course not." Yang Na said. Wang Yu chuckled. "I have a good idea that can let both of us escape." "What idea?" Yang Na asked curiously. "Come closer." Wang Yu shouted at Yang Na after being forced back by the soldier's spear. Yang Na obediently walked over to them. Wang Yu smirked. He reached out and pulled off the mask on Yang Na's face. Then, he punched Yang Na. Mask of Concealment, Special Accessory, Silver, Physical Defense, 12-24 Magic Defense, 12-24 Concealment. Hide your identity. Concealment. Non-player units will not be able to discover you when you are not in combat or actively communicating. TSK. It's actually a special accessory. Wang Yu exclaimed and hung the scarf on his face. Special accessories were items that did not belong to the equipment section. It was said that they were unique items, and their drop rates were the lowest in Rebirth. Wuji had a pair of glasses with a field of sight of 15, which was a special accessory. It was treated as a treasure by him, and he could not bear to wear it. He was afraid that the animals in Xuanzhen would borrow it to play with. A silver-ranked special accessory is definitely more expensive than a gold-ranked weapon. I can't tell that this chick Yang Na is quite rich. Wang Yu wasn't surprised that the guards didn't stop attacking him. After all, he hadn't left the battle yet. No matter how brainless the guards were, they wouldn't let him go. However, the reason why Wang Yu was wearing the face cloth was not because of this guy. Wang Yu rushed into the teleportation point after putting on the face cloth. After selecting the random teleportation point, he immediately chose to go offline. He had no choice but to log off. Wang Yu could vaguely hear the sound of knocking on the door. "Who is it?" "Wait a minute." Wang Yu took off his gaming helmet and heard Mu Zixi, who was cooking, walk out of the kitchen. Wang Yu hurriedly ran out to stop her. "Wife, don't open the door." Mu Zixi looked at Wang Yu in confusion. "Sister Xian, open the door." Yang Na shouted from outside. Mu Zixi heard this and opened the door. She smiled and said, "So it's little Na. I was wondering who it was. Have you eaten?" "Just nice, I just finished cooking." "Wang Yu, Sister Xian." Yang Na greeted Mu Zixi after entering the house. Then, she stared fiercely at Wang Yu and said, "I'm looking for Brother Yu. Hi." Wang Yu, who was behind Mu Zixi, gave a hollow laugh and waved his hand lightly. Wang Yu was indeed not in the right to kill someone for no reason. However, the situation was urgent. If Mu Zixi was killed by Wang Yu, she would at most lose 10% of her experience. If Wang Yu's guards were killed and the quest item dropped, the quest would fail. "I'll beat you to death, you shameless bastard." Yang Na bared her teeth and went past Mu Zixi. She aimed for Wang Yu's face and threw a punch. Wang Yu twisted his wrist, and with a pull, Yang Na was flung onto the sofa behind Wang Yu. You still dare to fight back? Yang Na shouted and rushed forward again. She coiled her left hand and grabbed right hand. She used both hands to grab Wang Yu's left arm with one hand and hit Wang Yu's lower back with the other. This move was called double wing flight. It was the essence of a Yang family's martial arts. The technique was very ingenious, and it was also Yang Na's proudest martial art. If a normal person was hit by her, they would lose half their life even if they didn't die. It could be seen how angry this lady was with Wang Yu. In fact, this was also reasonable. Originally, Yang Na could have escaped safely. She was already very loyal by not leaving Wang Yu behind. Who knew that Wang Yu would be so shameless? For the sake of his own life, he would suddenly kill someone and steal their equipment. Yang Na was also a daughter of a wealthy family. When had she ever suffered such viciousness? Well, including last night, this was already the second time. Hey, this move is useless against me. Do you know that? Wang Yu turned around and saw Yang Na's move. He could not help but sigh. Then, he formed his palm into a claw. The moment Yang Na attacked, he suddenly grabbed Yang Na's shoulder and lightly squeezed. Yang Na's body immediately went limp, and she almost knelt on the ground. Mu Zixian stood dumbfounded at the door with a spatula in one hand. She seemed to be scared out of her wits. Stop fooling around. If you continue, I will retaliate. Wang Yu said with a straight face. He was just defending himself. You bastard. Yang Na knew that she was far from being Wang Yu's opponent. She cursed and sat on the ground. Her mouth twitched and tears began to well up in her eyes. What's going on? Mu Zixian saw Yang Na's wronged expression. She walked to Wang Yu's side with the spatula and pulled Wang Yu's ear to ask, Tell me, what did you do to little Na? Look at how childish you are. Hurry up and apologize. Mu Zixian was confused by the two of them. However, Mu Zixian's thinking was a little extreme. In her eyes, no matter who was right or wrong, a man hitting a woman was a bad thing. The mighty Wang Yu immediately wilted when he saw Mu Zixian. It's nothing. It's just a quest. How can you take things that happen in the game seriously? Bullsh *T. Yang Na pointed at Wang Yu and recounted what happened in the game. After listening to Yang Na's narration, Mu Zixian stared speechlessly at Wang Yu and said, You are actually so bad. Don't eat dinner tonight. Wang Yu was shocked. Don't. I was wrong, all right. Wang Yu's two hobbies in life were martial arts and eating. Not letting him eat was worse than killing him. Mu Zixian glared and said, Say that to little Na. Yang Na saw that Wang Yu was being controlled by his wife and couldn't help but laugh in anger. Children of the pugilistic world had the temperament to take revenge on the spot. There were no overnight grudges. After fighting for a while, Yang Na's anger had mostly dissipated. Yang Na looked at the embarrassed Wang Yu and said, Forget it. Fortunately, the quest was completed. Even if I died, I would only lose 10% of my experience. But that crossbow, I'll give it to you. Wang Yu said, But you have to give me the face scarf. Wang Yu still had 4 quests. That face scarf was definitely a very good item. Yang Na was in a difficult position. That face scarf was a meeting gift from the professional trainer. Forget it. Exchanging a silver face scarf for a dark gold crossbow is also a profit for me. I don't like to be sneaky. You can take it and play with it. Your face scarf was actually a gift from a trainer. Wang was very envious. Compared to Yang Na's mentor, her mentor was simply a machine that cheated people out of money. Of course. After this quest is completed, the trainer still wants to upgrade my equipment level. Yang Na's face was full of pride. Wang Yu was even more depressed. Chapter 130. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. Seeing the two of them bury the hatchet, Mu Zixian was relieved. She smiled bitterly and shook her head. She touched the back of Wang Yu's head and said, Little Na, don't stoop to his level in the future. Don't be fooled by his age. He's just a child. Wang Yu chuckled when he heard that. He was as happy as a fool. Literature building, is it really okay for you to show off your affection like this? Yang Na looked at Mu Zixian, who had a doting expression on her face, and then looked at the obedient Wang Yu. She didn't feel good. Mu Zixin laughed and said, "Ha ha, I'll go cook first. Little Na, chat with your brother you for a while. Come to my place for dinner later." "And thank you, Sister Xian." Yang Na quickly thanked her. This girl was a rich missy. She was naturally not good at cooking. She lived alone and nearly threw up from eating takeout. Mu Zixin's culinary skills were top-notch. In the past, when she was working part-time in the restaurant, even the head chef was full of praises for her. Wang Yu and Yang Na were both from big families and had very picky tastes. However, they could not find any fault with Mu Zixin's cooking. Sister Xian's culinary skills are really good. Yang Na finished 2 big bowls of rice and leaned back on the sofa. She said with great satisfaction, "Eat more if you like it. I'll add more rice for you." Mu Zixin was delighted to be praised for her culinary skills. "No, I'm already full," Yang Na said enviously. "How did Sister Xian learn such good culinary skills?" Mu Zixin smiled and said, "Your brother you likes to eat, so I learned, Yang Na was once again embarrassed. "Hey Wang, you have to treat Sister Xian well. Otherwise, I won't forgive you." Yang Na clenched her fists and said to Wang Yu. Wang Yu chuckled. "Do I need you to tell me?" When he went online again, Wang Yu appeared in an unfamiliar city. This city was called Wind City. He did not know which bastard designed it. It was very strange. There were sandstorms everywhere. It was like Inner Mongolia. Wang Yu could not breathe even with a mask on. It was random. It was rare for the system to be honest. It was not vague when it said random. Not only was the teleportation city random, but even the landing location was random. What was even more infuriating was that visibility was extremely low. Wang Yu stared at the map for a long time, but she still could not find the main city. She did not even see a single player or monster. What the F***CK? Wang Yu was helpless. There were no players, no monsters, and no cities. How were they supposed to play this game? Just as Wang Yu was thinking about it. Of a city. Brother of the city, as the person approached, Wang Yu saw the person's face. That person was quite handsome and had delicate features. In Rebirth, one's appearance could be adjusted up and down. Other than Mingdu, who was extremely narcissistic, and Wang Yu, who did not know how to adjust their appearance, very few people would make themselves ugly. This was because it was said that good-looking people had good luck. The person held a spear in his hand. He looked like a punishment paladin. "Huh." The person saw Wang Yu and was slightly surprised. "There's someone in Wind Valley?" "Wind Valley? What's that?" Wang Yu was confused. The person said, "This is Wind Valley, Wind City's level 25 monster zone." "Monster zone? I don't see any monsters." Wang Yu asked curiously. "This is Wind Vortex, the deepest part of Wind Valley. The level 30 boss, Wind Beast, spawns here. Of course, there are no monsters here. You're just a noob. Why are you here?" "I don't know." Wang Yu was full of resentment. "This system is really messing with me." The person glanced at Wang Yu and sighed. "Fortunately, I'm here to collect herbs. Join my team. I'll take you out." Then, the person threw a team invite to Wang Yu. "System notification. Counterattack Tiger has invited you to join his team. Join." Since Wang Yu was wearing a face scarf, Wang Yu's ID was automatically named Nameless. "Huh? Nameless? Your ID is pretty cool. Is it a closed beta account?" Counterattack Tiger asked in surprise when he saw Wang Yu's ID. Wind and Cloud had been serialized for dozens of years, and it was still a classic. Nameless was naturally a popular ID. Anyone who could get this ID couldn't be an ordinary person. I guess so." Wang Yu chuckled and didn't reveal the secret of his face scarf. It felt good to hide his identity in the dark. No wonder so many people chose the Row class. "Amazing, amazing. I wonder if you have any strategies to defeat the Skywind beasts?" Counterattack Tiger asked. "I've never heard of it." Wang Yu answered honestly. It was his first time hearing about Wind City. "Oh." A light flashed in Counterattack Tiger's eyes. Then, he said, "Follow me. Wind Vortex is actually a maze. I guess no one can enter it except me." "You that good?" "I have a system item." Counterattack Tiger laughed. Just as Counterattack Tiger said, Wind Vortex couldn't stop him at all with a system item. The two of them made many turns in the vortex and soon walked out of the sandstorm area. At this moment, Wang Yu saw a valley. The valley was not too big. The scenery on both sides was like the Gobi Desert. It was full of death. Whirlwinds rose from the ground, making it look even more desolate. There were many crocodile-like level 25 monsters called horned lizards lying in the valley. After exiting Wind Vortex, Counterattack Tiger comforted Wang Yu. Don't be afraid. These monsters have high defense, but average attack. You just need to follow me. Oh, Wang Yu nodded. There was a rare plant called windgrass in Wind Valley. It was the herb that Counterattack Tiger needed. Every 2 steps, Counterattack Tiger would bend down to pick the herb. Therefore, the two of them progressed very slowly. Wang Yu naturally wouldn't urge others to hurry up and help him. However, seeing that this kid was wasting time, Wang Yu was secretly anxious. Wang Yu wouldn't be able to level up if he didn't complete the quest. The competition in the game was very fierce. If he was delayed for even a moment, Wang Yu's position as the #1 expert would be gone. Of course, Wang Yu didn't care about the title. The main thing was that using cards also burned money. After more than half an hour, the two of them still hadn't walked out of the valley. Wang Yu said to Counterattack Tiger, "Wind Vortex is out. I'll go back to the city according to the map." "Don't." Counterattack Tiger's eyes suddenly flashed with a hint of panic. Then, he said calmly, "The road is full of danger. You won't make it without me." "Huh? Is that so?" "Yes." Counterattack Tiger said. "The man-eating lizards outside Wind Valley have very high attack. They appear and disappear unpredictably. A Grandmaster of Combat, like you, will be eaten in one bite." "All right, then you'd better hurry up." "I'm gonna hurry," Wang Yu said. There was no time limit for the quest, so it was fine to delay for a while. However, Yang Na was still waiting for Wang Yu to mail her the Holy Magic Stone. Based on that little girl's character, if she saw that Wang Yu was online but did not mail it to him, she might just smash his door again. That's good, that's good. Counterattack Tiger wiped his sweat. After shoveling down a herb, he buried something under the herb. Wang Yu glanced over and happened to see it. He asked curiously, "What did you bury?" "Nothing," Counterattack Tiger said with a smile. "TSK, I saw it all." Wang Yu curled his lips and thought to himself. However, Wang Yu didn't ask any more questions. After all, the game was different from reality. Many players were afraid of this. After plucking the last herb, Counterattack Tiger raised his head and said with a smile, "All right, let's go back." "Yes," Wang Yu thought to himself. "It's finally over." The two of them got up and were about to leave. Suddenly, the horned lizards in the valley stood up as if they were provoked. They crawled towards Wang Yu and Wang Yu. Wang Yu said in surprise, "What's going on? We didn't enter their aggro range, did we?" Wild monsters, except for special bosses in manual mode, basically all had aggro ranges. At this time, the two of them were still more than 10 meters away from the horned lizards. There was no reason for the horned lizards to have such a reaction. Counterattack Tiger held his spear horizontally in front of his chest. He pointed to a small path not far away and said to Wang Yu, "I'll carry you. You go first. P.S. Seeking recommendation votes." Chapter 131. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. Can you handle it? Wang Yu looked at the horned lizards all over the valley and asked Counterattacking Tiger. Counterattacking Tiger said, "I'm a knight. I can handle it better than a Grandmaster of Combat like you." Wang Yu pulled out his rod and said with a smile, "Come on, seeing that you don't have any confidence, I'll help you." Wang Yu was not the kind of person to leave someone in the lurch. Moreover, Counterattacking Tiger had helped him before. It was not good enough to abandon his friend and run away. Who would have thought that Counterattacking Tiger said anxiously, "Just go, I can handle it myself. It's inconvenient for me to have you here." Inconvenient. Wang Yu had also heard that players in the game had their own trump cards that they didn't want others to know about. Therefore, Wang Yu muttered to herself in bewilderment and didn't ask any further. She turned around and walked toward the small path. Counterattacking Tiger saw that Wang Yu was walking towards that path, and a trace of joy flashed across his face. This small path was quite strange. Logically speaking, the further one walked, the higher the terrain would be. However, this small path was getting lower and lower the further one walked. There were also gusts of violent wind, blowing sand all over the path. Moreover, the wind was like a knife, blowing on Wang Yu's face, and he actually lost HP. Did I go the wrong way? Wang Yu was secretly puzzled. Suddenly, a huge figure in the sand blocked Wang Yu's path. F***CK. Wang Yu jumped in fright when he saw that huge creature. This was definitely the biggest monster Wang Yu had seen since he entered the game. Even the dragon blood spear god in its fire dragon form was not half as big as this thing. Wang Yu stood 5 meters in front of it and could only see its head clearly. This monster's head was pointed, and at first glance, it looked like a mouse. It had a long tail with huge thorns on its legs, and its appearance was much more terrifying than a mouse. Wang Yu hurriedly cast Detect Over. Skywind Beast, level 30, Silver Boss, HP, 50000 MP. 6,000 skills, Sigh of the Wind, Furious Howl of the Heavenly Winds, Swiftness. This thing really suited his body shape. He was just a silver boss, but his HP was higher than a gold boss. The Skywind Beast stared at Wang Yu with its light bulb-sized eyes. It tilted its head and stared at him for a full 10 seconds. Suddenly, it roared and spat out a white ball of air from its mouth. The ball of air, along with sand and stones, sprayed towards Wang Yu. The path was very narrow, and the Skywind Beast's breath filled the entire path. Wang Yu didn't even have a direction to dodge, so he could only use Night Jump to jump next to the Skywind Beast and smash his staff into its nose. 1953, seeing the number above the Skywind Beast's head, Wang Yu couldn't help but say happily, "This fellow is just big." It doesn't have any special defensive means. Thinking of this, he raised his stick and was about to hit it again. Ho! Unexpectedly, Wang Yu's attack had completely enraged the Skywind Beast. The Skywind Beast let out a roar and stood up abruptly. The massive power behind it sent Wang Yu flying. Immediately after, the Skywind Beast exerted strength in its 4 limbs and pounced forward, causing the entire ground to tremble. Before Wang Yu could even react, he was sent flying once again. Literature Building. In mid-air, Wang Yu suddenly used Thunder Stamp and landed on the ground. He was surprised and happy. He was surprised because this beast's body was quite big, but its movements were very agile. He was happy because this beast's attack was very low. The attack just now was very solid, and Wang Yu only lost 30% of his HP. Its attack was much weaker than the Yin Beast, which was also a level 30 boss. While Wang Yu was in a daze, the Skywind Beast rushed over again. Without hesitation, Wang Yu turned around and ran into the valley. The terrain here was too narrow. It was not wise for someone like Wang Yu, who relied on his agility and mechanical skills to survive, to fight a boss here to the death. In the valley, Counterattack Tiger heard the boss's roar and was instantly delighted. "Brother, have a safe journey. This isn't slower than you walking back. I'll help you return to the city, and you help me complete the quest. We don't owe each other anything." That's right, all of this was planned by Counterattack Tiger for his own quest. Counterattack Tiger's quest was to kill the Skywind Beast. The Skywind Beast was only a level 30 silver boss. The average player's level was around level 15. Most of them had already changed their equipment to bronze grade. As long as there were enough people and they cooperated well, defeating this boss that only had a lot of HP was not a problem. However, this Skywind Beast was famous for being timid. It hid in the Skywind Whirlpool and never dared to go out. Without a special quest item, it was impossible to enter the Skywind Whirlpool. Therefore, Counterattack Tiger could not even ask for help. Actually, the quest was not very difficult. As long as the Skywind Beast was lured into a trap, the quest would be half completed. However, the Skywind Beast was very fast. The knight's legs were short, so there was no way he could outrun it. For this quest, Counterattack Tiger had already been killed by the Skywind Beast twice. This time, Counterattack Tiger unexpectedly met Wang Yu, who had been randomly teleported into the Skywind Whirlpool from the moment he saw Wang Yu. Counterattack Tiger could tell that Wang Yu was not a local. After all, in Wind City, Everyone knew about the famous Skywind Valley. Therefore, Counterattack Tiger thought of a bad idea that could kill two birds with one stone. He wanted Wang Yu to lure the boss. Lure the boss in his trap. Counterattack Tiger was a knight. If he could not handle the boss, then the Grandmaster of Combat, who was famous for his fragile skin, would not be able to. Therefore, Counterattack Tiger did not think that Wang Yu would survive. Wang Yu's death did not affect Counterattack Tiger much. This was because the boss's aggro was generated by the party. Counterattack Tiger and Wang Yu were in the same party. As soon as Wang Yu died, the boss would automatically run out to find him. This way, he could easily lure the Skywind Beast out. Then, as long as the boss ran into the trap, everything would be easy. However, the next scene stunned the counterattacking Tiger. Counterattack Tiger thought that Wang Yu was going to die. However, not only did he not die, he ran out of the trap energetically. Behind him was his target, the Skywind Beast. Counterattack Tiger was slightly stunned. He shouted at Wang Yu, "It's the boss. Quick, lure it to the 6 o'clock position." Wang Yu chuckled and ignored the attacking tiger. He purposely bypassed the position that the attacking tiger had mentioned and rushed over to the side of the attacking tiger. Wang Yu wasn't a fool. When he saw the Skywind Beast, he knew that the counterattacking tiger was making use of him. The people of the Chuanjin sect had always been good at scheming against others. If Wang Yu was foolishly plotted against, he might be ridiculed by others in the future. Wang Yu was fast, but the Skywind Beast was faster. One man and one beast quickly ran to counterattack Tiger's side. F***CK. Seeing that Wang Yu did not fall for his trick, counterattack Tiger ran. Counterattack Tiger shouted as he ran, "Brother, why are you doing this? The valley is only so big. Do you think you can outrun him?" Wang Yu's figure flashed in front of counterattack Tiger. He turned his head and smiled. "As long as I can outrun you. F***CKU. Before counterattack Tiger could curse, the Skywind Beast caught up to him and stomped him on the ground. The Skywind Beast jumped and jumped. After a few consecutive stomps, counterattack Tiger turned into a white light. P.S. Recommend 2 books, Blueberry's King's Ranger and Mario's Godly Mecha Hunter. Chapter 132. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. So cruel. Wang Yu looked at the spot where counterattacking Tiger had died and secretly wiped off his sweat. Dying like this must have left a shadow in his heart. Literature building. The Grandmaster Combat class was as light as a swallow. Naturally, the clumsy knights couldn't compare. After killing counterattacking Tiger, Skywind Beast chased after counterattacking Tiger. Wang Yu calmly jumped to the side and hit Skywind Beast with his staff. 1958 Skywind Beast's body trembled and was about to turn around. However, although it wasn't slow, its body was too big. In Wang Yu's eyes, its turning speed was more than slow. Before Skywind Beast could turn its head, Wang Yu had already jumped on its head and hit it with his staff. 2125 Skywind Beast felt pain and swung its spiky tail to hit Wang Yu. Wang Yu jumped down, and Skywind Beast's tail hit his head, causing him to be stunned. Taking advantage of Skywind Beast's stun, Wang Yu jumped back on Skywind Beast's head and put on his boxing gloves. The boxing gloves had high attack speed and could also release all skills. Its damage output was much higher than that of the staff. After a series of attacks, Skywind Beast's HP was reduced by 30,000 by Wang Yu. The Skywind Beast was infuriated. It suddenly flipped its body and threw Wang Yu off. Then, it opened its mouth and the wind in the valley rushed in from all directions, forming a barrier to protect the Skywind Beast. Wang Yu thought, why did it use its ultimate skill so quickly? In the blink of an eye, Skywind Beast's wind barrier dissipated. Then, it appeared in front of Wang Yu with full HP and MP. This time, Wang Yu had a headache. Skywind Beast only lost 10% of its HP, and it used its ultimate skill. This skill's cooldown was not long. This thing's HP was so high, there was no way it could survive. At this time, counterattack Tiger, who had died in the city, shouted in the party channel, "What's the point of doing this? You can't kill it yourself." Wang Yu laughed and said, I can lure him to the 6 o'clock position. Just now, Wang Yu saw the counterattacking tiger bury something. You. Counterattack tiger's tone immediately softened. Bro, since I brought you out of the maelstrom, let's make a deal. One was speechless. There was no lack of capable people in the game. Tiger counterattack had just been trying to kill him, and now he still had the guts to try to befriend him. His level of shamelessness was no less than that of Chuanjin. What's wrong? Wang Yu asked. You can have the boss's EXP, but I'll take the loot. How about it? Wang Yu said angrily. Don't you have any shame? This guy's skin was really thick. He even dared to make such a shameless request. Putting aside the fact that Wang Yu's experience was currently locked and he couldn't get any benefits, even if Wang Yu could get some experience, as long as he wasn't stupid, he wouldn't agree to the counterattack of a tiger. I can pay for it. Counterattack tiger quickly said. Really? Let's wait and see what drops. Wang Yu leaped, and with a few leaps, he arrived at the location pointed out by the tiger that had just launched a counterattack. Literature building, Skywind Beast, was not very intelligent. It followed closely behind. When it was within 1 meter of Wang Yu, the whole valley suddenly lit up and the wind in the valley stopped. Then, a hexagram formation rose under Wang Yu and Skywind Beast's feet. Wang Yu quickly jumped back and escaped from the hexagram formation. Skywind Beast did not have Wang Yu's consciousness. It was still looking around in a daze. Then it was trapped in the hexagram formation. System notification. Your party has activated the trapping trap. Skywind Beast is trapped for 30 minutes. System notification. You have been trapped by the trapping trap. You cannot use any skills for 30 minutes. Wang Yu took a look and saw that her skill panel had indeed turned gray. There was even a countdown timer on it. As for the Skywind Beast, it was trapped in the hexagram. Forget about using its skills. This beast's huge body was squeezed into such a small cage. It was difficult for it to even turn around. As a martial arts master, Wang Yu was not afraid of anyone in the game who did not need to use skills. Wang Yu switched his weapon to Warrior's Persistence, swung his rod, and smashed the Skywind Beast's head with sheep charging a hungry tiger, even though the demon trapping trap was in between them. Staff techniques focused on defense. Therefore, in ancient Chinese martial arts, the attacking power of staff techniques was not very high. As the Skywind Beast could not move, Wang Yu simply gave up on defense and used the Wulong Bagua staff that focused on offense. The Wulong Bagua staff evolved into a spear technique. It was light and unpredictable. Using offense as defense, its lethality was shocking. The Skywind Beast's HP was very high. Wang Yu's rod technique had 64 points. She had to hit it from start to finish before the Skywind Beast turned into a white light. With a flash of white light, the trapping trap was dispelled. A round bead fell to the ground. Eye of the Wind. Quest item. F***CK. It's a quest boss. Wang Yu cursed in disappointment and threw the Eye of the Wind into his backpack. Most of the quest bosses in Rebirth had special items to deal with. Therefore, to prevent players from killing bosses with malicious intent, unless it was a one-time use quest boss like the Silver Moon Wolf King, normal quest bosses rarely dropped anything other than quest items. After the death of the Skywind Beast, the wind in the valley stopped. The Skywind whirlpool outside the valley also disappeared. Wang Yu opened the map again, found the direction to Skywind City, and walked toward the city. On the other side, Counterattack Tiger received the news of Skywind Beast's death. He immediately messaged Wang Yu. Did it drop? Yes. Wang Yu said gloomily. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I wasted so much effort just to work for you. Counterattack Tiger chuckled. Hee. If I told you earlier, would you fight it? F***CKU. How dare you trick me? Wang Yu reacted. Counterattack Tiger hurriedly said, No, I didn't have a choice. I'll buy it for a high price. Wang Yu thought for a moment and asked, What quest is this? This. Counterattack Tiger did not want to say it, but he was afraid that Wang Yu would make things difficult for him. He hesitated and said, Hidden skill, magic trap. Is it the one just now? Wang Yu was shocked. Wang Yu had seen the power of the trap. This thing was too overpowered. Not only could it seal skills, but it could also completely imprison the boss. If it really was this kind of skill, wouldn't the tiger that could counterattack be the heavens? Counterattack, Tiger laughed. It's not that overpowered. That was a magic trap given to me by an NPC. I'll be thankful if my magic trap is even 1/10 as good as his. 3 minutes? That's not bad. In a game, a few seconds could change the outcome of a battle. Even 3 minutes was extremely overpowered. I can give you the Eye of the Storm for free, but you have to make 10 traps for me. Wang Yu said. Just now, Wang Yu saw that counterattack Tiger was burying something, so the magic trap was definitely a consumable. Wang Yu still had 3 bosses to kill. These shameless guys might have some skills, and the magic trap would definitely be of great use. What? 10? Impossible. Counterattack Tiger exclaimed in shock. I've only collected materials for 8 of them. Then you can give me 5, right? 3. No more is possible. Counterattack Tiger said firmly. Wang Yu chuckled and threatened. Brother Beast, you have to think this through. You lost 5 traps now, but in exchange, you have more than 5. If I'm not wrong, your quest is only 1. Counterattack Tiger was silent for a moment, then gritted his teeth and said, Damn, you win. P.S. I've been in meetings for a whole day today, and my saved manuscripts are all used up. Please recommend me. Chapter 133. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. When Wang Yu returned to Wind City, Counterattack Tiger was already waiting at the city gate. Seeing Wang Yu, Counterattack Tiger hurriedly greeted him with a smile. Nameless brother, you're back. His flattering expression was like a subordinate seeing his leader. There was a saying that one should not hit a smiling person. Seeing Counterattack Tiger's expression, an honest person like Wang Yu was too embarrassed to pursue the matter of him tricking him. Yes, here. Wang Yu nodded and handed the Eye of the Storm to Counterattack Tiger. Counterattack Tiger took the Eye of the Storm and wanted to run away. Then, he received a system notification. System notification, Iron Ox has requested to add you as a friend. Iron Ox. Counterattack Tiger was stunned. He originally wanted to run away, but he looked at Wang Yu blankly and said, Your Guru Iron Ox? Guru Iron Ox was currently the most dazzling expert on the forum. He had appeared on TV several times because he had solo killed bosses. He was the only dragon slayer in the world of Rebirth. The light of the god of war and mage god in the online gaming circle had been overshadowed by him. This was not the scariest thing. The scariest thing was that this person was a member of the infamous Chuanjin guild in the gaming circle. The Quanjin sect had always been known to be treacherous, cunning, and unorthodox. In this new mode of the game, the Quanjin sect was the first guild to defend their base. They had even defeated the #1 guild in Rebirth, reigning the world. Their fame was so great that almost everyone knew of them. Super strong individual strength and sinister and ruthless methods. Birds of a feather flocked together, so others thought that Wang Yu was as shameless as the other members of Chuanjin. This caused all the solo players in Rebirth to label Iron Ox as someone who must not be provoked. Counterattack Tiger faintly felt a chill down his spine when he thought about how he had tricked this ancestor-level bad guy. Yes, it's me. Wang Yu nodded. My apologies. The gods of Chuanjin have always been my idols. Tiger Counterattack said sincerely. Wang Yu smiled faintly. I can see that. Counterattacking Tiger's shameless style was really compatible with Chuanjin's group. So don't ever lie to me again. Otherwise, I have dozens of ways to make your life a living hell. Wang Yu threatened. There were many torturing techniques in Chinese martial arts. For example, Wang Yu was good at dislocating tendons and dislocating bones. I know. Counterattack Tiger's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He knew Chuanjin's personality very well. Back in the day, the #1 guild in the online circle was called Three Fiends Village. For guild leaders were killed by Chuanjin, and Three Fiends Village split into 3 guilds. Wind City's largest guild, 10,000 miles of yellow sand, was one of them. It's good that you know. Wang Yu smiled and said, By the way, have you read Water Margin? That book also has Iron Ox and Tiger. Actually, we're quite fated. Counterattack Tiger. In Water Margin, Iron Ox wasn't very friendly to Tiger's family. Is this guy trying to scare me? After knowing Wang Yu's identity, Counterattack Tiger naturally didn't dare to have any improper thoughts. He obediently handed in the quest, learned the skill, and immediately started crafting. Literature building. Half an hour later, Counterattack Tiger took out 5 coin-sized magic cores and handed them to Wang Yu. This is the trap? Wang Yu originally thought that the trap would be something as big as a beast trap. He didn't expect it to be so small. It's a magic trap. If there were as many as an archer's trap, it would be a shame. Counterattack Tiger didn't forget to brag at this time. Wang Yu took the magic cores from Counterattack Tiger's hands, glanced at them, and put them in his bag with satisfaction. Magic Trap immobilizes the enemy target for 45 minutes and prevents them from using skills for 3 minutes. Although its power was much weaker than the previous trap, and it didn't even have a tenth of the skill's effect, Wang Yu was already very satisfied. After all, Wang Yu wasn't interested in hitting fixed targets. Wang Yu liked to seal the effects of skills the most. After bidding farewell to Counterattack Tiger, Wang Yu first went to the mailbox and mailed the Divine Mana Stone to Yangna. Then, he took the airship to Titan City. This small rundown place was more like a tribe than a city. It didn't even have a city wall, only a few sparse streets. NPCs that were 2 to 3 meters tall stood on the streets, welcoming customers in the cold wind, even though there weren't many players on the streets at all. It was simple, crude, and cold. Titan City didn't even compare to other main cities. Even a novice village was more prosperous than this place. In the background story, the Titans were the children of the god of creation. When the world was created, the Titans also participated. However, there was an old saying in Huaxia: when the birds are gone, the good bough is hidden. This was also common in Western fantasy stories. In order to commend the Titans for their contributions, the god of creation sent the Titans to the bitter north. Of course, the main reason why the god of creation treated them this way was because Titans weren't good people. It was said that it was related to family ethics. The system didn't explain much, but the strength of Titans was undeniable. There were very few players in Titan City because the environment here was too harsh. The temperature was around minus 30 degrees Celsius all year round, and it was winter now. It was already cold enough in real life, but they still had to suffer in the game. Unless they had a special quest, no fool would want to spend money here to suffer. As there were very few people here, there was no hope of asking players for quests. So, you could only ask NPCs. As the Titans were in the neutral camp, they didn't seem to be on good terms with the dragons. Wang Yu didn't have much of a reputation in the dragons, but he was very popular here. Wang Yu strolled around and set his sights on the blacksmith shop. Wang Yu also knew how to play with a hammer. No matter what, he was still in the same profession as this blacksmith. There was a common language between people in the same profession. Most importantly, the blacksmith shop was bright red and bustling with activity. Just one look at it would feel warm. When he arrived at the blacksmith shop, Wang Yu saw a shirtless Titan forging weapons with a hammer next to the stove. Hello. Wang Yu walked to the stove and greeted the blacksmith first. The shirtless Titan blacksmith heard this and put down the work in his hands. He asked Wang Yu in a friendly manner, "Respected Dragon Slayer, how can I help you? Do you know about the Titan's heart?" "I'm sorry, I don't know. You can ask Arceus." "Arceus? Who's that?" Wang Yu asked. The blacksmith said, "Arceus is our leader. He's extremely powerful." "Thank you." Wang Yu turned around and was about to leave. "Aren't you going to buy something?" The blacksmith asked again. "No," Wang Yu said. Wang Yu had already seen the blacksmith things. They were all trash. "What a pity. I'm the best blacksmith in Titan City." The blacksmith muttered. Wang Yu smiled and thought to himself, with your level, you'd be an apprentice at most in other main cities. However, the blacksmith muttered again, the current forging hammers can't withstand my powerful strength. If I had a good hammer, I could make the Titan race's refinery flourish. Refinery? Wang Yu was slightly stunned. He replied, "What kind of forging hammer do you need?" "Arceus has a good hammer. Can you help me borrow it?" System notification. You have activated the side quest Titan's Refinery. Do you accept? It's a quest. Wang Yu is overjoyed and clicked confirm. System notification. You have accepted the side quest Titan's Refinery. Quest rank A. Borrow the Titan race's blacksmith Tia's hammer. Zero Refinery is a secret of the Titan race. This quest is only effective for players with Refinery. You cannot form a party. P.S. Students, don't forget to vote for Uncle Neo during the exam. Uncle Neo is invigilating you. Chapter 134. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. Wang Yu, who saw the mission notification, was also dumbfounded. She had always heard that the dwarf race was good at forging, but she didn't expect something like the refinery art to be a secret of the Titan race. The system god was really messing around. However, it was understandable after thinking about it. The world was created by the Titan race, so it wasn't strange for them to have a refinery art. Lord Dragon Slayer, thank you so much for agreeing to my request. Tia waved his big hammer and excitedly reached out to hug Wang Yu. Wang Yu was afraid of being crushed by this guy, so he quickly jumped to the side and said, "It's just a hammer. You guys are so big, but you're so stingy." "You don't know." Tia shook her head. Esteemed Dragon Slayer, the Thunder God's hammer is Arceus' personal weapon and the symbol of our leader. It's the Titan race's treasure, and we wouldn't lend it out easily. Wang Yu was speechless. This big guy looked silly, but he didn't expect it to be waiting for him here. It was the personal weapon of the leader of the Titans, after all. As a warrior, Wang Yu naturally knew that a warrior valued their weapon more than their life. This was asking for Arceus' life. "Can I cancel this quest?" Wang Yu asked. "Yes, but I'll have to take back your refining." Tia smiled very innocently. Wang Yu hurriedly said, "What are you talking about? It's just a stupid hammer. I'll definitely borrow it for you." At the same time, Wang Yu was crying in his heart. This system was such a scammer. It had to take back something that was already in its hands. How could it let people have fun? Following Tia's directions, Wang Yu quickly found the residence of the leader of Titan City. As the leader of the Titans, Arceus' standard of living wasn't much better than the others. The four walls of his house were bare, and there was nothing special about it other than big. After all, he was big. Arceus was a very generous and easygoing person. Seeing that Wang Yu had suddenly barged into his house, he did not seem displeased at all. Instead, he asked, "Respected Lord Dragon Slayer, what can I do for you? May I ask if you know about the Titan's heart?" Wang Yu asked politely. Arceus nodded and said, "I know. Can I borrow it for a while?" Wang Yu asked happily. Just now, Wang Yu's heart was still beating like a drum, afraid that this guy didn't know. Arceus' expression changed slightly. "I'm afraid I can't." Your answer is really straightforward. The result was within Wang Yu's expectations. If it was so easy, this mission wouldn't be an S-rank mission. After thinking for a while, Wang Yu asked again, "What about Mjolnir? Can you lend it to me?" Wang Yu had his own reasons for asking this. Because the Titan's heart was likely to be the same as the angel's wings, which could only be obtained by killing a Titan. In that case, he would offend the Titan race. Taking advantage of the fact that he had a good impression of the Titan race, he should complete the other mission first. Who would have thought that the stingy Arceus would shake his head again? "I'm afraid not. That would be very awkward," Wang Yu said gloomily. "I'm a dragon slayer. Can't you give me some face?" "Ha!" Arceus laughed. "Mjolnir is the treasure of my race. It can't be lent to outsiders. Even if you were the god of creation, it would still be against the rules, let alone a dragon slayer." Literature building. "It's your people who asked me to borrow it." Wang Yu said. Arceus said, "It's Tia. He's asked me to borrow it many times, but he's not the patriarch. If he wants to use this divine artifact, he has to meet my conditions." "Conditions? What conditions?" Wang Yu asked. "Haha, it's very simple. Defeat me." Arceus laughed heartily. "What level are you?" As soon as he entered, Wang Yu used Detect on Arceus. There were a bunch of question marks, including HP and MP. This was the treatment of a superboss. Level 200. What the F***CK? Wang Yu was speechless. This blockhead was actually a level 200 super boss. How the F***CK was he supposed to play? If he could defeat Arceus, Wang Yu could be considered half invincible. Did he still need to do quests to level up? Haha, Lord Dragon Slayer, what's wrong? Arceus asked with a smile. Nothing, I was just thinking that Tia is really pitiful. Do we really have to fight? Can we sit down and talk it out? Wang Yu's impression of this smiling tiger dropped by more than 10%. The words Lord Dragon Slayer especially grated on Wang Yu's ears. It was obvious that Arceus was looking down on him. The Titans are born to fight. We don't have that many tricks up our sleeves. We only trust those who are strong. Nonsense, Wang Yu said angrily. I would say the same if I were level 200, but I'm only level 20 now. Arceus said, I'm not done yet. Naturally, I won't bully someone of your level. Hearing Arceus say this, Wang Yu finally relaxed. You mean you want to become the same level as me? That's how this quest should be. But you have a special quest on you, so my level cannot be lower than level 35. Arceus said honestly, of course, if you can defeat me, I can lend you the Titan's heart and Mjolnir. Wang Yu once again sighed at the shamelessness of the system. A level 35 against a level 20 was not bullying. It was only a gap of 15 levels. For Wang Yu, although it would take some effort, it was still acceptable. All right, let's do it this way. Wang Yu said, do we fight here? Wang Yu was born in a martial arts family, so he was used to fighting behind closed doors. Arceus's house was spacious enough, so this scene was quite suitable for Wang Yu. No, you'll break things. Arceus shook his head and said, come with me. After saying that, Arceus waved his hand and a light covered Wang Yu. In a flash, Wang Yu was brought to a very spacious place. Small dungeons. The final boss in the game seemed to know this trick. Wang Yu cast Detect on Arceus again, and this time, the data was displayed. Mjolnir Titan Arceus, level 35, Dark Old Boss, weakened state, elite, HP, 50,000 MP, 50,000 skills, vibrating hammer, hidden lightning hammer, explosive assault, earth hammer, only 50,000 HP and MP. Wang Yu was secretly puzzled. A level 35 Dark Old Boss in manual mode. These stats are not very good. I'm afraid even level 35 monsters have more HP than him. How is it? Are you satisfied, Lord Dragon Slayer? Arceus asked with a smile. Wang Yu was touched. Are you helping me cheat? As expected, a boss with high AI, he was very considerate. Arceus laughed. No, respected Lord Dragon Slayer. 50,000 HP is enough to deal with you. F***CK. Are you looking down on me? Wang was very unhappy. He was actually being looked down on by a set of data. Arceus laughed. Of course not, Lord Dragon Slayer. You have the ability to slay dragons. Naturally, I dare not look down on you. I am different from other fake bosses that rely on transformation. I am a final boss. I have the right to choose which aspect of my strength to keep. What do you mean? So I sacrifice my strong body to keep some speed and absolute strength. Arceus said, P.S. Remember to vote, students. Chapter 135. The saying that big guys had great wisdom was true, especially those who looked stupid. They were the most difficult to guard against. To put it in a more artistic way, they were called great intelligence. To put it simply, they were pretending to be weak. As expected of an ultimate boss, Arceus's actions convinced Wang Yu. For example, although the Dragon Blood Spear God and Judge Willy were both level 35 elite bosses, their real lethality was only after their second transformation. The second transformation would occur when the boss's HP dropped to 30%. In other words, the real power of these bosses was only in the tens of thousands of HP. On the other hand, Arceus was much smarter than them. He had transformed himself into a second stage state while retaining his most advantageous attribute. Even though he looked weak, he was still much smarter than the other two. First of all, Arceus maintained his peak state and did not give Wang Yu a chance to see through his tricks. This was a weaker version of a level 200 ultimate boss that retained its strength attribute. If Wang Yu was touched, he would be killed instantly. Therefore, in the battle against Arceus, Wang Yu could not even test his skills. He had to make sure that he did not get touched. Lord Dragon Slayer, are you ready? I'm going to attack. As Arceus spoke, he lowered his head and dashed forward. His entire body turned into a ball of lightning, crackling with electricity as he rushed over. Seeing this, Wang Yu dodged to the side and barely dodged. Before Wang Yu could stand still, he saw Arceus suddenly transform into a human, raise the hammer in his hand, and smash on the ground. Ah! Wang Yu cried out in surprise. He hit Arceus with a telekinesis wave and used the recoil to jump back. At the same time, a circle of ripples rose up within 200 yards of Arceus, creating a shallow pit with a diameter of 2 meters in the ground. Hiss! Wang Yu sucked in a breath of cold air. As expected of a boss in manual mode, his skill chain was very rhythmic. If he had dodged a little slower, he would have been instantly killed. Seeing that Wang Yu had dodged it, Arceus chuckled. As expected of the Dragon Slayer, take another hammer strike from me. Arceus raised the Mjolnir in his hand and then disappeared into the air. After Arceus disappeared, Wang Yu tried his best to sense Arceus's aura. However, he couldn't find Arceus anywhere. Above, Wang Yu looked up, and sure enough, Arceus was descending from the sky, the hammer in his hand aimed straight for his head. In the blink of an eye, Wang Yu rolled on the ground and dodged Arceus's hammer. He then took out a bottle of potion, drank it, and faced the attack head-on. Stimulant. All attributes increased by 300% for 50 seconds, and HP decreased by 2% every second. Stimulants were considered cheating, so Wang Yu really didn't want to use them unless it was absolutely necessary. Unfortunately, Arceus wasn't any slower than Wang Yu, and his attack was ridiculously high. There was a saying in martial arts that a single force could defeat 100 techniques. Arceus' attack was so monstrous that even if Wang Yu used Tai Chi Fist and was hit head-on by Arceus, he would still die. Therefore, if he wanted to defeat Arceus, he had to work hard on his speed. Seeing Wang Yu charging at him head-on, Arceus did not hesitate and swung his hammer. After taking the stimulant, Wang Yu speed soared. He leaped forward and dodged Arceus' hammer. Both his arms stretched out, and he grabbed Arceus' right hand with a knee strike. With a backhand twist, he pulled Arceus behind him. Then, Wang Yu kicked Arceus' butt, and a huge minus 4,125 appeared on Arceus' head. Arceus' strength was so great, and his judgment was extremely high. If not for the forceful grab from his knee strike, Wang Yu would never have been able to move him. Even if Wang Yu grabbed Wang Yu's right hand, if Arceus forcefully swung his fist, Wang Yu would die without a doubt. Therefore, as soon as Wang Yu's grab from his knee strike disappeared, Arceus immediately swung his fist. However, Wang Yu had already let go and flashed to the other side of Arceus. With a thunder stomp, he stepped on Arceus' hind leg. Due to Arceus' strength being too high, Arceus, who was originally knocked back by thunder stomp, not only did not kneel, he did not even sway. That's crazy. Wang Yu was shocked. Arceus was even more surprised than Wang Yu. Although his strength had dropped to level 35, the attributes of a Dark Gold boss were still not something a level 20 player could touch. However, this kid was like a slippery fish. Not only could he not hit him with his skills, but he also couldn't even touch his shadow after 2 consecutive hits. Arceus, who had been hit twice in a row, roared and swung his Mjolnir 180 degrees backwards. Wang Yu smiled faintly and left. Before Arceus' attack could even reach him, Wang Yu's left leg kicked off, and with a twist of her body, she had already arrived in front of Arceus. Her right palm suddenly lifted up and caught Arceus' chin, causing Arceus to be slightly stunned. 8 trigrams swimming dragon palm. This palm technique could be said to be the most wretched palm technique in Chinese martial arts. This palm technique had a total of 32 moves, 28 of which were body movements. The other 4 needed to be used in conjunction with body movements. The unique feature of this palm technique was the word swim. It was like a tiger sitting on an eagle, a dragon moving like a monkey, and it would leave as soon as it touched one's clothes. It would never give one the slightest chance to be attacked. It was said that in order to practice this palm technique, one had to first train for a few years in long-distance running. After training for a long time, most people went to long-distance running teams to participate in the Olympics, and this palm technique gradually declined. The Wang family fist was a firm and fierce martial art. Naturally, Wang Yu did not have the time to train long-distance running, so he had only dabbled in this palm technique a little. Long-distance running trained endurance, and endurance in the game was almost unlimited. Wang Yu did not have to worry about this problem. With his advantage in speed, he was able to put on a good show. Of course, the main reason was that Arceus' skills were extremely shallow. If he really encountered an NPC who was also a grandmaster of combat, Wang Yu would not have used this fist technique. Looking at the big guy swinging his hammer horizontally and vertically, if it were not for Arceus' amazing strength, Wang Yu would have already knocked him over. This half-baked wandering dragon palm was more than enough to deal with this guy. Arceus' weakening of his body was completely based on Wang Yu's attributes, so Arceus' speed was actually not much higher than Wang Yu's. Who knew that Wang Yu would pull out such a thing and completely stun Arceus? Arceus had a total of 50,000 HP. Among the bosses, he was definitely fragile. With Wang Yu's attributes multiplied by 3, each punch could take away 1/10 of Arceus' HP. Originally, Arceus wanted to rely on his suppressive attributes to kill Wang Yu, but in the end he was too smart for his own good. The 50-second stimulant effect was not over yet, and Arceus had not even had a chance to unleash his ultimate skill before he was beaten into a white light by Wang Yu. That's it. Even Wang Yu did not expect this boss to be killed so easily. This was simply a system benefit. Chapter 136. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. After exiting the instance dungeon, Arceus was quite depressed. He did not even get to see the shadow of a boss before he died. Arceus was probably the only one in the world who could do this. Lord Dragon Slayer, to be honest, I'm not convinced. Arceus did not look like a competitive guy. Huh, Wang Yu laughed. Lucky, you're smart, but not smart enough. Wang Yu was very proud of his own skills, but he did not dare to deny Arceus' strength. If Arceus had not made a mistake, who knew who would have won? After all, when he was weakened from level 200 to level 35, his HP and MP were reduced to the extreme. In fact, a Grandmaster of Combat was a fragile class, so there was no need to use absolute strength. Right now, Wang Yu only had around 1,000 HP. A normal attack from Arceus would be able to deal a maximum damage number, but other than that 1,000 HP, everything else would be a waste. It would be more than enough to preserve Wang Yu's speed and strength. Sigh, my reputation, Arceus said with a face of disappointment. Please don't tell anyone. He was still one of the final bosses. Even if he was weakened, Arceus would not have the face to be a boss if he was killed by a player 15 levels lower than him. Are there any benefits? Wang Yu asked with a smile. Wang Yu was such a kind person. He was becoming more and more like those guys in Chuanjin. System notification. Titan's favorability towards you is 50. Currently friendly. That's it. You're the final boss. Wang Yu said disappointedly. Arceus spread his hands helplessly, then pointed to the sky and said, "There are people watching us from above." Ugh. Wang Yu was slightly stunned. This guy actually knew that there were people above. The AI of the final boss was too scary. All right, that's it then. Wang Yu said, "Give me the quest items." No matter how powerful the final boss was, it only had one life. If it was really discovered by the system, this set of data would be recycled. Wang Yu did not like to force people to die. Thank you, Lord Dragon Slayer. Arceus smiled as he handed Mjolnir and the Titan's heart to Wang Yu. Titan's heart, quest item, a relic left behind by the creator Titan after his death. Mjolnir, legendary, attack, 1780-3310 magic, 1780 to 3310, 181 strength, 272 stamina, 90 crit, 152 sputtering thunder sanction. All enemies within 500 yards take 250% magic damage. Lightning psionic energy. Normal attacks, carry lightning magic damage, and cause paralysis. Hidden lightning hammer. Hide within lightning for 3 seconds and appear next to an enemy target within 1,200 yards. Wrath of the heavenly god. Summons lightning to strike all enemies within 400 yards, dealing 250% magic damage. Concussive hammer. Smashes the ground with the divine hammer, dealing 300% physical damage to all targets within 200 yards. Earth hammer. Charges for 3 seconds, deals 350% physical damage to everything within 1,000 yards. Required level. 1 profession requirement. General, damn, a legendary, godly weapon. Wang Yu almost drooled when he saw the Mjolnir's attributes. Although Wang Yu did not have high requirements for equipment attributes, he was still shocked to see such an exquisite item. This Mjolnir's Mjolnir only differed by 1 word from the craftsman god's Mjolnir, but the attributes were worlds apart. Compared to this godly weapon, the old blacksmith's hammer was only good for smithing. With such a powerful equipment, no matter how bad one's mechanics were, they would be able to one-shot anyone they met. How much money would this sell for? Thinking of this, Wang Yu could not help but equip it. In the end, the system notified literature building could not be used. Sighing, Wang Yu threw the Mjolnir's Mjolnir into his bag. After bidding farewell to Arceus, he walked towards Tia's blacksmith shop. Esteemed Lord Dragon Slayer, did you really borrow the Mjolnir's Mjolnir? After Wang Yu gave the Mjolnir's Mjolnir, Tia cried out in excitement. Yes. Wang Yu had the urge to cry. If not for the fact that this quest item could not be used, Wang Yu would have taken it, even at the risk of being hunted down by the Titans. Tia excitedly took out a book and said to Wang Yu, "That's great. The refinement technique is a secret of the Titans. Lord Dragon Slayer, the fact that you were able to learn it must be the will of the Creator God. Now that you've helped me so much, I have no way to repay you. This refinement insight contains my many years of experience, so I'll give it to you." Wang Yu reached out to take the book from Tia's hands, but he was not happy at all. The divine artifact was actually exchanged for such a thing. Was it worth it? This was a question that really made one ponder. System notice. You have comprehended the Titan blacksmith Tia's refinement insight. Refinement has been upgraded to intermediate. Intermediate refinement. 50% chance of creating exquisite equipment. Fine, it's better than having nothing and being remembered by the boss. Wang Yu looked at the refinement stats and was quite satisfied. After all, no matter how good a godly weapon was, it was still trash if it could not be used. He had already completed 3/5 of the quest, and there were still 2 places he needed to go. Nepha's City and Darkness City. Darkness City was under the control of the Dark Army, so players like Wang Yu who belonged to the Radiant Army weren't very fond of him. Thus, Wang Yu decided to go to Nepha's City. Nepha's City was a place of exile, and like Titan City, it was a neutral region. At the same time, Nepha's City was a very unique city. The system had 15 regions. 5 belonged to the Dark Army, 5 belonged to the Radiant Army, and the other 5 belonged to the neutral lands. No Powers City would support players from the same Powers territory to PK each other. Thus, there was this thing called PK value. As mentioned before, the quickest way to farm PK points was to do wanted quests. However, not everyone had the strength of an expert. So when it came to team battles, those mages who were covered in filth and had no companions to protect them would end up in a miserable state. Thus, players with a large amount of PK value would choose to be teleported to Nepha's City. Because Nepha's City was the front line of the war between the Radiant and Dark forces, there were no guards. Players could also choose to help the NPCs on the battlefield complete some quests to erase their PK value. At the same time, they could also obtain some small items. The risks and rewards were far less than wanted quests. Of course, most people with PK value weren't good people. If they wandered around Nepha's City alone, it was very likely that they would be killed inexplicably. This was especially true for a guy like Wang Yu, who had exquisite equipment. After disembarking from the airship and walking less than 5,000 meters from the tavern, he had actually encountered 3 groups of robbers. One could imagine the fates of these unlucky fellows. Wang Yu couldn't help but sigh. This anarchic city's public security was 2F king bad. The tavern was a gathering place for information. Just as Wang Yu ordered a glass of wine and sat down, intending to take a break and ask around for information, the tavern's door was suddenly kicked open. A black-robed, ugly mage holding a staff that emitted an extremely arrogant light shouted, "Wanted quest. If there's nothing to do, get out. P.S. The author seems to be invigilating the exam. Everyone, please vote for him. Treat it as a blessing for the college entrance exam candidates." Chapter 137. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with wonderful novels to read. You mother asterisk cur. They were all level 20 experts, and no one was a vegetarian. Seeing how tyrannical Mingdu was, the archer opened his mouth and cursed, "Kutcha!" With a lightning strike. The archer was turned into slag before he could finish his words. Mingdu then called out to Wang Yu, "Old cow, come here." Wang Yu was sweating profusely. No wonder this Ned guy did want quests every day. With his playstyle, if he didn't do PK, he would be in jail forever. Mingdu's lightning strike shocked all the players, not to mention others. Those who could accept quests in this camp were all level 20 heroes. There were only 1,000 or so level 20 players in the entire national server. To say it irresponsibly, the people standing here were all at the top of the leaderboard. This mage actually killed them without saying a word. His temper was too violent. What surprised the players even more was Mingdu's high magic damage. Although the archer was fragile, that person was still a level 20 expert. To be killed by a lightning strike, his magic damage was really frightening. Everyone was an experienced and knowledgeable expert. They knew that someone with such ability was certainly not an ordinary person, so they all looked at the badges of the two people. When Wang Yu greeted Mingdu just now, he took off his mask. At this time, the yin and yang fish on their chests were particularly dazzling. Chuanjin. Everyone was shocked. Could it be that the Grandmaster of Combat was the legendary Iron Ox the Great God? Everyone raised their heads to look at Wang Yu before lowering their heads. The stronger the person, the more they knew how to protect themselves. Although they all knew that Xuanjin's reputation was mostly exaggerated on the forum, no one dared to come out and verify it this time. After all, Mingdu's magic damage was real. Passing through the crowd of players, Wang Yu followed Mingdu and arrived in front of Hobart. At this time, there were 4 people standing behind Hobart. When they saw Wang Yu, they all showed angry expressions. When Hobart saw Mingdu, he shouted exaggeratedly, "My child, you have come. The great empire needs your help. Honorable Lord Hobart, how can I help you?" Mingdu recited his lines in a serious manner. Hobart said, "Originally, I just wanted you to send some military supplies to the frontline battlefield, but someone attacked the Holy Court yesterday. The preliminary judgment is that it should be the work of the Dark Army. So the Pope personally ordered 4 envoys to escort some things back to the camp of the Holy Crusade. Are you willing to help them?" Mingdu said passionately, "Sir Hobart, the frontline soldiers are still in dire straits for the people of the Empire. How can I escape at this time? Please let me transport the supplies to the front line." Although they were both escorting missions, Mingdu did not think that escorting the items of the Holy Court was safer than escorting supplies. He would not do it if there were no benefits. Hobart said with a smile, "Child, I understand the intentions of your granary, but this mission is no small matter. Don't worry, there will be additional rewards for this mission." "Ha!" Mingdu smiled and said flatteringly, "The Holy Court is our guardian. It is only right for me to do things for the Pope. May the God of Light be with you." Aya. Wang Yu could not bear to listen to Mingdu's shameless words. Wang Yu had thought that he had been trained to be strong enough by the NPCs, but after seeing Mingdu, Wang Yu finally knew what a real player was. Wang Yu could only guarantee that he would not be tricked by the NPCs, but this *TCH Mingdu was actually bargaining with the NPCs in a serious manner. There really was a mountain higher than the one before. This scene made Wang Yu gasp in amazement. After Mingdu accepted the mission, he brought Wang Yu to the back of the 4 people. When the four saw Wang Yu walk over, they were shocked and angry. They wanted to say something, but hesitated. These four people were the four young masters of the Holy Light. Because the people of the royal roots did not capture Wang Yu, the four of them were punished by the Pope and exiled to this broken place to atone for their crimes. At this moment, when the four of them saw Wang Yu, their eyes were exceptionally red. However, thinking of Wang Yu's powerful strength and the fact that they did not bring any underlings with them, they did not dare to say anything. Wang Yu felt uncomfortable being stared at by the four of them. He could not help but ask, "Hey, the four of you." As soon as Wang Yu spoke, the four young masters of the Holy Light were on the verge of tears. They thought to themselves, "You bastard, you finally remembered that we are your enemies? The four of you look a little familiar." Wang Yu did not know why the four of them looked so agitated. Familiar? The four young masters of the Holy Light were stunned for a moment. They felt as if a knife was being twisted in their hearts, and tears streamed down their faces. The four of them treated this guy as their biggest enemy and wanted nothing more than to cut him into 1,000 pieces. But this guy actually completely forgot about the four of them. Why did it feel like they were wishful thinking? "What are you crying for? Have we met somewhere before?" "Yes." Eternal silence gritted his teeth. "Did you forget yesterday in Holy Light City?" "Oh, I remember now." Wang Yu glanced at Eternal Silence and said, "I've killed you before." Eternal silence. Wang Yu glanced at the other three and said, "I've also killed you guys, everyone." This guy was too good at chatting. Mingdu said in shock, "How many people have died in the hands of Lord Ox?" "Just 4 of them were the souls of the dead under your hands." Wang Yu said, "They were the ones who brought people to stop me yesterday." "I see." Mingdu looked at the 4 of them, as if he was looking at dead people. When the 4 of them heard Wang Yu mention old grudges, they hurriedly retreated behind Hobart, especially young Master Breezy, who covered his mouth with both hands. His face was filled with shame and fear. It seemed that young Master Breezy was traumatized by Wang Yu's stick. Eternal Silence said with a trembling voice, "Great God Iron Ox, we are only on a mission. We stopped you because we had no other choice." "I know. I don't mind." Wang Yu waved his hand, indicating that he didn't take it to heart. After all, if it wasn't for the help of royal roots, Wang Yu and Yang Na wouldn't have been able to escape unscathed. But the more Wang Yu acted like this, the more guilty Eternal Silence felt. People nowadays were so evil that they could be blackmailed to help an old lady, let alone being hunted down. Eternal Silence didn't believe that this matter would just pass like this. Seeing this, Mingdu smiled and said, "Don't worry, Nyogu is a man of his word. But this time, we will be escorting you, so you guys will have to pay a little." Young Master Hua said angrily, "Isn't this a promotion quest? If you want a reward, go to the system." Mingdu said, "Even so, what if we want to cause trouble? It's a game anyway. We can play however we want. Right, Nyoga?" Wang Yu glanced at Mingdu and didn't say anything. He knew that this time, the 4 young masters of Holy Light would have to pay a lot. Mingdu was different from Wuji. Even though Wuji also liked to scam people, he only used overt schemes. This old man would negotiate with you and make you submit willingly. Even if you don't want to, you still have to submit. And Mingdu was purely despicable and shameless. As long as there were benefits, he wouldn't even blink even if he had to sacrifice himself. "You're shameless." Ling and Feng pointed at Mingdu and scolded. "He." Mingdu laughed. This level of scolding didn't have any effect on him. Eternal Silence thought for a moment and said, "Fine. As long as this quest is completed, I will give each of you 100 gold." The 4 young masters of Holy Light lacked everything but money. The auction house had a large list of tens of thousands of gold coins. Eternal Silence had money in his pocket, so he didn't panic. Mingdu said happily, "I like dealing with straightforward people like you." Wang Yu waved his hand and said, "Forget it. You don't have to bring me along. P.S. Would I say that I used up all of my stockpile? But it will still explode once put on the shelf. Recommendation tickets." Chapter 138. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. After all, Wang Yu was a martial artist and had received a good moral education since he was young. Usually, when it came to scamming NPCs, it was just a bunch of data. Wang Yu could still accept it. However, scamming players was something that Wang Yu would never do. How should he put it? Even though they were all from the same guild, Bright City's character was truly unpredictable. Saying that he was disdainful to work with him was a bit too much, but with Mingdu's shamelessness, who knew what kind of tricks he would play along the way, Wuji's clearly marked price to cheat people was more reliable. What's wrong? Mingdu said. He already said that he was chasing you because of the quest, and you still hold a grudge? No. Wang Yu shook his head and said, I still have my own quest. Oh, as expected, after hearing that Wang Yu wanted to do his own quest and not participate, Mingdu immediately began to play more shameless tricks. Brothers, words alone are no proof. Pay half of the deposit first. You have to know that this time, the risk is very high. I'm not a thief who leaves. Oh no, I'm not working for free. Mingdu knew that this escort quest was because of Wang Yu, so the probability of him colliding with Wang Yu was quite high. As one of Wang Yu's few friends, Mingdu understood Wang Yu's strength the best. It would be an exaggeration to say that Wang Yu could kill all the escorts, but if Wang Yu stole the item and ran, no one would be able to catch up. With Mingdu's unwillingness to suffer losses, of course, he would get as much as he could. I'm afraid that's not possible. Eternal Silent Dawn was in a difficult position. They weren't fools. Yesterday's incident had caused such a huge commotion, and everyone in the Holy City knew that Wang Yu was the culprit. If Mingdu could think of something, they could naturally think of it as well. The reason why they offered such a high price was mostly because of Wang Yu. Don't be fooled by the fact that the four brothers looked angry when they saw Wang Yu. In fact, it was all resentment. The four of them were absolutely convinced by Wang Yu. Rich people were all shrewd. They would never make an enemy out of those who couldn't be dealt with even with cheats. Instead, they would firmly rope them in. You don't believe in my strength? Do you want to spar with me? I'm telling you, I kill without batting an eye. Mingdu said unhappily when he saw Eternal Silence hesitating. Not at all. I've seen Boss Mingdu's strength just now. Eternal Dawn hurriedly said, but I trust Boss Iron Ox more. As he spoke, Eternal Dawn pointed at the other players who were talking to Hobart. Eternal Silence's meaning was clear. I know that Mingdu's magic damage is high, but with so many level 20 experts, you can forget about covering the sky with one hand. However, Iron Ox can. Mingdu looked at Wang Yu and didn't refute. If he was defeated by others, Mingdu would definitely be unconvinced. But when he was defeated by Wang Yu, he couldn't find any reason to nitpick. Wang Yu was so strong that it made others feel helpless. Of course, if Boss Iron Ox is willing to help, the price can be discussed. Mingdu looked at Wang Yu and said, Old cow, if you really can't do it, you can sell your body for once. Seeing Mingdu like this, Wang Yu was also helpless. Mingdu had a cheap temper. If he did not let him take advantage of him, he would die of discomfort. Speaking of which, what are you guys escorting? Wang Yu asked. If they had not collided with him, he would have been able to help out. Eternal Silence said, the soul of the Dark Demon King Francis. Oh, the soul of the Dark Demon King? Could this really be related to the assassin's soul? Wang Yu was stunned and asked again, who is Francis? Eternal Silence took out the mission log and read, Francis is the commander of the Dark Army's Third Army. He is proficient in assassination techniques. Several commanders of the Light Crusade have been assassinated by him. He is known as the Shadow Killer. In the year 1457, the commanders of the front line joined forces and killed him in the Abyss of Sin. His soul was imprisoned in the eternal shackles. It is said that the Dark Army has found a way to break the shackles and wants to resurrect him. So, the Pope ordered to send him back to the Crusade camp and suppress him with the power of light. Wang Yu and Mingdu were speechless. The last trace of hope disappeared. If there were no accidents, the thing they were transporting this time was the assassin soul that Wang Yu was looking for. Brother, I'm really sorry. Wang Yu patted Eternal Silence's shoulder and said meaningfully, I'll go easy on you when the time comes. Damn. Boss Iron Ox, don't be like this. Eternal Silence said with a sob. You think I want to? Fighting with so many level 20 experts. I'm also panicking. Wang Yu said gloomily. If there were dozens of them, Wang Yu could still deal with normal players. But there were hundreds of them, and Wang Yu is no god. Moreover, these were all level 20 super experts, who didn't have one or two trump cards. This escort mission was also a promotion mission. Everyone would definitely fight with their lives on the line. Mingdu rubbed his chin and thought for a moment. Why don't I call everyone to kill you now, so that you don't cause trouble? Sure, I'll take you with me before I die, Wang Yu said with wide eyes. Mingdu quickly said, just kidding, I have an idea, but I don't know if it will work. Tell me about it. Wang Yu said, let's do this and this. Mingdu explained his idea in a few words after listening. Wang Yu looked at Mingdu dumbfounded and asked, do you have a worse idea? To tell the truth, I do, Mingdu said. Wang Yu said gloomily, how much do you hate me for going to the crusade camp to rob something? Then you have another idea? No, but I can ask Wuji. Wang Yu opened the guild channel and told Wuji about the matter. Mingdu's idea is pretty good. After listening, Wuji replied faintly, go my ass. Wang Yu sent a despising emoji. Both of them wanted him to die a horrible death. Wuji laughed and said, I thought that Mingdu's brain would let you pretend to be friendly with the holy light 4 young masters first, and then suddenly attack halfway. Then, the two of you would work together to kill them and rob them. I didn't expect him to be smart for once. Mingdu laughed and said, hee, this is an even worse idea. Wang Yu said with a dark face, how can I do such a thing? Mingdu said, even if you can do it, I won't let you do it. I still need to change my class and advance. If it wasn't related to this guy's own quest, he would have asked Wang Yu to be utterly heartless. Wang Yu said angrily, you two are talking nonsense. There are so many high-level NPCs in the Crusade camp. How can I survive? Wuji sneered and said, do you really want to be Zhao Zilong? Aren't there 300 players? 300 players? Wang Yu was stunned and said, will they help me? The Quanzhun sect's bad reputation was obvious to all. Mingdu's act of killing people made these people's impression of Wang Yu and Lin Jiufeng extremely low. As long as they weren't stupid, no one would help them. Chapter 139. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. Rich Young Master. Wang Yu looked back at Eternal Silence and the other 3 and replied, Bullsh asterisk T. Why would they spend money to help me? Wuji sent an idiot emoji and said, how would I know? It's all up to you. Don't bother me. We're busy transporting military supplies. After that, Wuji hung up the channel. What do you guys think of this idea? Wang Yu asked Eternal Silence. When Mingdu mentioned his idea, the 4 of them were also listening. The other 3 wore blank looks on their faces, thinking that Wang Yu was courting death. Eternal Silence, on the other hand, flattered. Only Boss Iron Bull could come up with such a bold plan. We didn't even dare to think about it. Wang Yu laughed and said, to be honest, I'm also very powerless, so I need your help. Us. Eternal Dawn's expression froze for a moment. Then he said, Boss Iron Bull thinks too highly of us. The 4 of them knew their own limits. They were only level 18, and although they had a full set of exquisite equipment, it was only their equipment that was valuable. How could they dare to challenge the Crusaders? Actually, I want you guys to help me issue a quest. Wang Yu roughly said what Wuji said. This is against the rules. Guru Iron Ox, are you short of money? I have tens of thousands here. Give me an account. I'll use it for pocket money first. Eternal Silence thought for a while and said, literature building. There were over 300 experts. Hiring them for a single gold coin would be a slap to the face. It would cost at least 10 gold coins. However, 10 gold coins per person would be 3,000 gold coins. 3,000 gold coins would be more than 2 million gold coins. These rich second generations didn't really care about tens of thousands, but throwing out 2 million casually. Money didn't grow on trees. Wang Yu scratched the back of his head awkwardly and said, "Actually, I also have some gold coins, but I don't have them with me right now, since City actually has a bank too." Hua Xiao reminded, "I can't take out the money here." Wang Yu was even more embarrassed. His money was hanging at Yu Huiqing's consignment office, and he couldn't take it out until the time was up. Moreover, the gold coins didn't take up much weight on him, and they wouldn't drop out. It sounded like he was pretending to be rich when he didn't have any money. But Eternal Silence was in a difficult position. Would such an expert know how to spend over 2 million to befriend him? How about this? Wang Yu paused and took out a badge from his bag. "This is a quest item that dropped when I killed the Angel of Judgment. Although I don't know if it's useful to you, this thing is definitely not cheap. How about I bet it on you? I'll pay you back when I have the money." This was the most valuable thing that Wang Yu had on him right now. "This is..." The Holy Light fourth young master saw the badge in Wang Yu's hand and exclaimed, "The Badge of Light. Yes, not bad." Wang Yu nodded. Capital Hua Xiao took it in his hand and said ecstatically, "It's just 3,000 gold. Leave it to me. Haha, Badge of Light. I really put in a lot of effort for you." "What's this? Is it worth so much?" Mingdu asked with a sneaky look. Eternal Silence said, "This is his hidden class advancement item. It's useless to you guys. No wonder." Mingdu understood. There were many tycoons in the game, and there were people who spent millions on equipment. Spending a few million on a hidden class advancement item was indeed not expensive. Moreover, Hua Xiao had spent more than 3,000 gold to buy this hidden class. If Mingdu knew about this, he would definitely think that Wang Yu's price was too low. "Okay, then it's settled. You guys just need to be responsible for getting them to help me." Wang Yu did not care about the value of the Badge of Light, whether it was sold cheaply or not. It was fine as long as he could complete the mission. The Holy City's 4 Young Masters mission had a limit of 300 people online. Wang Yu and Mingdu waited for more than an hour in the camp before they had enough slots. The limit for a party in Rebirth was 25 people. A party of more than 300 people had to form a party to be used in a large-scale dungeon. Therefore, although everyone was an expert, it was inevitable that they would be nervous. With such a large party, the difficulty of the mission would definitely not be low. The eternal shackles that they were escorting was actually a glass bottle. Western fantasy games were just so ***ed up. Demons and ghosts were either hidden in boxes or nested in bottles. The situation was rather miserable. The East was different. The capable demons would either be suppressed under the mountains or imprisoned in the rivers. If they were treated well, they might even be able to marry into the family. This was called a cultural difference. Our country of China was just that high-end and classy. For safety reasons, Eternal Silence carried the bottle with him and asked Wang Yu to stay by his side to protect him. This way, the other players felt that it was extremely unfair. With the same mission, of course, being a bodyguard was the easiest. They did not have to do anything, but the result was the same. These fellows were all experts among experts. Their eyes grew on top of their heads. Although the Quanzhun sect was famous, and no one dared to act rashly, they were still very unconvinced in their hearts. Eternal Silence had no other choice. In Wang Yu's plan, he wanted to snatch this item, so he naturally had to be closer to him. Moreover, Wang Yu's target was this item, so he definitely wouldn't let anyone snatch it away. As such, Eternal Silence, Dawn, trusted Wang Yu, the person who wanted to snatch the soul. The mission map indicated that the Crusaders' camp was at the front line of the battlefield. On the way, they had to pass through 2 camps of the Dark Army. In other words, the 2 locations were the most likely to encounter a battle. After preparing and setting off, it was still very safe within Hobart's sphere of influence. After passing through the Plains of Sin, the group entered a mountain range. System notification: you have discovered the Condemnation Mountain Range. Obtained 1,000 experience points. System notification: your party has left the safe area. Please be prepared to protect your escorted item. Eternal Silence did not dare to let his guard down after receiving the system notification. He immediately ordered, "Everyone, get into formation. Take care of the short-legged classes." These were all high-level players. Naturally, they did not need to be told how to form a formation. After Eternal Silence gave the order, everyone got into position with the tanks in front and the damage dealers and healers in the back. This was the first time he had commanded so many expert players. Eternal Silence felt a little excited. He said to Wang Yu with a face full of pride, "With so many powerful subordinates, Boss Iron Ox probably won't have it easy. Don't be too happy. This formation isn't very safe. If you get too far away from me, I won't be able to protect you." Chapter 140. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with an exciting novel to read. The Condemnation Mountain Range was a mountainous terrain with valleys on both sides. If the enemy were to descend from the sky, the formation would be thrown into disarray. The players were all experts and had high awareness. When positioning, the archer habitually stood in the innermost position and marked the target diagonally above. Literature Tower. Wang Yu's battle awareness was strong, and he often mingled with experts, so he developed this awareness over time. Eternal Silence and the other three didn't have this awareness and started to get complacent while commanding the team. After being reminded by Wang Yu, Eternal Silence quickly ran to Wang Yu's side and stuck close to Wang Yu. Wang Yu felt rather awkward being stuck to by a bunch of men. Everyone carefully walked for a long time, but it was safe and sound along the way. The last map of the Condemnation Mountain Range was a canyon. Seeing that they were about to exit the canyon, Eternal Silence exclaimed in surprise, "No way, we passed the first stage just like that." Just as Eternal Silence finished his sentence, the archer scout's voice came from not far away. "There are enemies in front." The group looked towards the direction of the voice, and sure enough, there was a group of soldiers in black armor blocking the entrance of the canyon. Dark Sniper, LV-25, Elite, HP, 20,000 MP, 5,000 skills, Dark Entanglement, Fatal Strike. They were very standard elite monsters, one with a control skill and one with an attack skill. There were more than 200 of them standing at the entrance of the canyon. They almost blended in with the black hue of the valley on both sides. If it wasn't for the archer's eagle eye passive, they might not have noticed them. The players were all experts. It was just 200 elite monsters, so the players naturally wouldn't panic. Without waiting for Eternal Silence's order, the players automatically pushed their formation forward. Tanks in the front row, charge, shield bash, shield wall, buff. Players in the back row, control, heal, full DPS. Dark Snipers were melee-type monsters and couldn't make use of their advantage in numbers in the canyon. The players, on the other hand, were fully equipped for melee and ranged attacks. As long as a small number of tanks blocked the entrance of the valley, everyone could attack freely. With such a huge gap in strength, 300 experts versus 200 monsters only took a few rounds to utterly defeat the Dark Snipers. Holy shit! Seeing the Dark Snipers being massacred, the people at the back suddenly cried out in alarm. A sneak attack! Everyone hurriedly turned around and saw many people in black cloaks appearing beside the mages and archers in the back row. Dark Assassin, LV-25, Elite, Skills, Stealth, Assassination, Swift Movement. After these assassins appeared, they didn't even groan or pant as they swiftly moved forward with their daggers, stabbing the waists of the mages and archers in the back row. Even though these players were all experts, a moment of carelessness from the ambush of so many elite monsters had resulted in two mages transforming into white particles of light. The other mages and archers also hurriedly used their life-saving methods. Everyone who had escaped death looked at the monsters at the back with lingering fear. He already knew that the system was shameless, but he didn't expect it to be so shameless. It even knew how to scheme and attack from both sides. At the end of the day, these players were all battle-hardened veterans. They only paused for a moment before coming back to their senses. One of the mages waved his staff, and a golden eggshell-like shield rose from his body. Then he pointed his staff at the Dark Assassin and shouted, "Shield warriors, block the snipers in front. Damage dealers, retreat. Weapon warriors, turn around and protect the back row." The players received the order, and the archers and mages retreated to the sides. The warriors activated charge and rushed to the back. A black fog enveloped the dark assassin. Seeing that these monsters were trying to hide, the warriors launched another sneak attack. The warrior at the front, wearing golden armor and wielding a silver greatsword, shouted, "Use whirlwind slash to interrupt." After the shout, the warrior used charge and charged into the group of dark assassins. Whirlwind slash was a level 20 warrior skill and one of the signature skills of a warrior. It had a wide area of effect and high damage. One you had seen Erdis use it before, and it was very powerful. Charge followed by whirlwind slash. Amazing. How'd he do it? Eternal Silence looked at the warrior in shock. In Rebirth, there were many restrictions on the release of skills. Unless it was a secondary skill, two skills could not be released at the same time. For example, when using Charge Whirlwind Slash, one had to cancel charge to use it. The warrior's Charge Whirlwind Slash was definitely something that did not make sense. Wang Yu nodded and said, "Yes, it's quite powerful." Eternal Silence's skill was limited, and he could not see what was going on. However, a godly expert like Wang Yu could naturally see it at a glance. The Golden Armored Warrior was using free mode, and free mode completely followed the definition of physics. In system mode, when the charge skill was cancelled, the warrior would immediately break. In free mode, the warrior would charge forward due to inertia. Of course, this inertia would not exceed the range of the charge skill. In other words, in free mode, even if the skill was cancelled midway, the warrior could still charge forward due to inertia. Under the effect of inertia, the warrior could use Whirlwind Slash to achieve this effect. However, everything had its pros and cons. For example, the boss's skill range was in front of them. If the charge skill cancelled in free mode, they would be completely dumbfounded. The Golden Armored Warrior's charge distance and cancellation of inertia were just right. It was obvious that he was very familiar with it. It seemed that the normal players were really talented. It was worthy of Wang Yu's evaluation. After all, the Dark Assassins had 10,000 HP. One Whirlwind Slash could only interrupt their stealth skill and not kill them. After using Whirlwind Slash, the Golden Armored Warrior used Taunt to pull the aggro of the three assassins. He swung his sword and started fighting with the assassins. Seeing this, the other warriors followed suit and used Whirlwind Slash. Warriors had a total of 5 skills at level 20. Other than Smash and Charge, there was Taunt, Behead, and Whirlwind Slash. Against level 25 elite monsters, 1v1 was fine, but 1v3 was a bit weak. However, when the warriors finished using their set of skills, the mages and archers also arrived. The Dark Assassins did not have high physical and magic resistance. After being controlled, they became useless and quickly turned into experience. The battle lasted for more than 10 minutes. Other than the 2 mages who were killed by the sneak attack at the beginning, there were no other casualties. Chapter 141. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. The players were afraid of being tricked by the system. After a long while after the battle ended, and confirming that there were no more ambushes, everyone sat down to rest. Literature building. After resting, everyone went on their way again. However, everyone's attitude towards Wang Yu and Mingdu was clearly starting to resist. Wang Yu was needless to say. He had been watching the whole time and did not do any damage. Mingdu was indeed skilled, but his character was extremely bad. Not only did he habitually steal kills, but he was also involved in the death of one of the mages. Mingdu was shameless. When he fought, he naturally stood as far back as he could. Therefore, he was one of the targets of the assassin's sneak attack. The damned Mingdu used a skill similar to Alien Swap at the critical moment and switch places with another mage. Such a despicable act was seen by everyone. The people of the Quanjin sect were all crazy. After being hated by so many people, not only did Mingdu not reflect on himself, but he was also in an extremely good mood. It seemed that being despised by so many people could fuel his vanity. Ignoring the murderous gazes of the crowd, Mingdu came to the safest central area, which was next to Wang Yu and the 4 young masters of holy light. Let me go with you guys. It was too dangerous just now. Mingdu patted his chest and said in a slightly panicked tone. Wang Yu looked down from above and saw everything that Bright Doe did. She couldn't help but say in disdain, "That skill of yours is really cheap." Hee hee. Mingdu smiled and said, "Guardian Switch, a quest reward. I need a target to use it. It's not as good as your teleportation. The name doesn't sound too cheap." Wang Yu muttered strangely. Guardian Switch did not look like a skill used to trick people. Mingdu laughed and said, "Hee hee, this is a general skill given by a Guardian Knight. The skill description is used to protect teammates." You really? Wang Yu immediately understood what was going on. Originally, this was a skill used by a tank to protect the rear, but in Mingdu's hands, it became an escape skill. Such a righteous skill, but it was used by this guy in such a shady way. This grandson was really despicable to the bone. "What's the range of your skill?" 800 yards. "Get lost, or I'll kill you." Wang Yu pointed into the distance. Mingdu, at this time, the golden-armored warrior and the magician who had activated his shield walked over with unfriendly expressions. They didn't pay any attention to Wang Yu and Eternal Silence. Instead, they walked up to Eternal Silence and the others. The gold-armored warrior said, "Young Master Dawn, although you're the leader of this quest, it's also a class advancement quest for everyone, so we all have the right to speak, right?" Air. Eternal Silence was taken aback. "That's right. Boss heroes, if you have any opinions, just say them." As the leader of the guild, Eternal Silence naturally knew that this battle was not going to be easy. The warrior, world hero, belonged to Unparalleled. Unparalleled was one of the major guilds at the current stage of the game, and was no weaker than Royal City. The magician was called Dustless, the guild leader of the veteran guild, Godly Sanctuary. The magician who had just been tricked by Mingdu was called Dustless. Dustless. The relationship between the two was obvious. These two were strong. In terms of capital, they were not much weaker than the 4 young masters of Holy Light. Moreover, their guild was strong, and Eternal Silence, who had spent money to hire professional players, could not afford to offend them. Therefore, even the arrogant Eternal Silence had no choice but to lower his head. World Hero said, "I don't have any opinions. Since it's everyone's quest, we can't just sit there and do nothing." Although World Hero was talking to Eternal Silence, everyone present could feel that he was pointing his spear at Wang Yu. Hee hee. Wang Yu chuckled and ignored this guy. Wang Yu's promotion quest was to steal the assassin's soul. As long as he was willing, none of the other 293 players could complete the quest. World Hero actually looked down on Wang Yu for not doing anything. Wang Yu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Eternal Silence naturally knew about Wang Yu's quest, so he explained while sweating. "Boss Ironox isn't doing a promotion quest. He's a bodyguard I hired." "Oh, so that's how it is." World Hero was stunned and speechless. If Wang Yu was doing a promotion quest, it would be unreasonable for him to not do anything. However, he was a private bodyguard, so it was completely reasonable. What a pity. At the same time, World Hero looked at Wang Yu with a trace of disdain. He was an expert, but he was reduced to being a bodyguard like a professional player. How shameless. This was the circle of experts in the game. No matter how amazing you were, the moment you heard that you were a professional player working for someone, your status would immediately drop by a level. Of course, Wang Yu could guess what World Hero was thinking, but he didn't bother arguing with this guy. What about him? Is he also a bodyguard? Dustless, the wizard next to World Hero, pointed at Mingdu angrily and said, "I suggest kicking a black sheep like him out of the team." Well, Eternal Silence also felt a headache. Truth be told, Eternal Silence didn't really like Mingdu, but this kid was with Wang Yu after all, so he couldn't say anything. Mingdu sneered and glanced at Dustless. He spread his hands and said to Eternal Silent Dawn, "Young Master Chun, don't make things difficult for yourself. If we encounter an ambush later, I'll be the first to charge at the front. Boss Mingdu is so considerate." Eternal Silence was so touched that tears streamed down his face. He originally thought that with Mingdu's weird temper, it would be difficult to talk to him. That's true, but the pace should be slightly higher. Mingdu rubbed his fingers and made a money-counting gesture. Seeing Mingdu's behavior, World Hero and Dustless understood the dirty deal within, and each of their faces showed an even more disdainful expression. What a bunch of poor B** stars who had never seen money. Damn, I knew it. Eternal Silence gritted his teeth and said, "Don't you think that you're being immoral?" Mingdu said indifferently, "I don't cheat, and it's fine as long as I don't steal accounts. There's no need to talk about morality in the game." Eternal Silence said helplessly, "You win, as long as you're willing to contribute. You won't be left out when the time comes. Young Mastodon really is a tycoon. Tycoon my ass, lower your voice." Eternal Silence raised his middle finger. World Hero and Dustless disdained to earn small money, but the other players might not. If they knew that Eternal Silence was favoring one and discriminating against the other, wouldn't there be chaos? Mingdu happily went to the front of the team, and before leaving, he smiled and said hello to Dustless. Dustless thought that Mingdu was afraid of him, so he had his head held high and had a proud look on his face. What bullsh**t Chuanjin #1 wizard. He's just a cheapy *TCH who bullies the weak and fears the strong. He's still scared by me. Dustless, who returned to the team, said. Chapter 142. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. After passing through the Condemnation Mountain Range, they arrived at the Desolate City. The Desolate City, as its name suggested, was a barren desert. Not a single bit of green could be found in the yellow sand. Fortunately, they were in the game. Otherwise, they would feel thirsty just by looking at such a large desert. The escort team was now at a place called Desolate Sand Dune. It was also one of the Dark Army's garrisons. The escort team had to pass through the front lines. After entering the Desolate City, the players did not relax at all. They looked around cautiously, afraid that an assassin would appear out of nowhere. After all, their lives were theirs. If they died here, they would have to return to the city and start over again. The prerequisite for a class change, quest cost money. The players were a little suspicious. Could this be a malicious way for the game company to collect money? Throughout the entire process, only Wang Yu had a relaxed expression on her face. She followed behind Eternal Silence, as if she was on a vacation. "Boss Iron Bull, aren't you afraid?" Eternal Silence could not help but ask when he saw how relaxed Wang Yu was. "What's there to be afraid of? My quest isn't to escort that stupid thing," Wang Yu said nonchalantly. Eternal Silence said, "Then if we fail the quest, you can't continue with the rest of the quest, right? No, if you guys can't hold on, I'll just take the thing and run. You wouldn't hand it over to the NPC and not give it to me, right?" Wang Yu said. Eternal Silence heard this and panicked. "Ugh, Boss Iron Ox, we can't do that." Wang Yu smiled faintly. "I'm joking." "Really?" Eternal Silence did not believe it at all. "Of course." Wang Yu swore. "I swear in the name of Chuanjin." "Ugh, I have an idea." Eternal Silence spat out a mouthful of blood. After chatting with Wang Yu for a while, Eternal Silence's nervous mood also relaxed. When the escort team reached the center of the Desolate Sand Dune, Wang Yu suddenly said to Eternal Silent Dawn, "Be careful. There's an ambush here." "No way." Eternal Silence looked around and said, "There's no one here." The center of the Desolate Sand Dune was actually a large desert. This desert was very different from the terrain of the mountain range. There was no cover here. If there was really an ambush, they would have been exposed long ago. It was absolutely impossible for them to hide. Eternal Dawn then turned to the scout archer and asked, "Did you find any suspicious creatures?" The archer said, "Is there a need to look? How could someone hide in such a flat place?" You're right." Eternal Dawn nodded. "Boss Iron Ox, you're overthinking things." Eternal Silence said. Wang Yu shook his head and said, "No, I can feel someone watching us." "Feeling? How did it feel?" Eternal Silence was stunned by Wang Yu's words. "There's murderous intent." Wang Yu said. Not only eternal silence, but even the people next to him also laughed. Murderous intent. This person must be sick in the head. Why not say there's demonic energy? Isn't that even more awesome? Be careful. Right here. Wang Yu's eyes suddenly turned cold, and he reached out to grab Eternal Silence's chest. Hey, Boss Iron Ox, you don't have to. Eternal Silence was shocked. He thought that Wang Yu was humiliated by him and wanted to kill him. So he subconsciously waved his hand to block. But how could he be a match for Wang Yu? Wang Yu grabbed Eternal Silence's arm and pulled him behind him. Eternal Silence was still trying to organize his words to apologize to Wang Yu when he saw a sandbag suddenly bulge up where he was just standing. Then, a thin person wearing a yellow cloak jumped out of the ground and swung a scimitar at his head. Eternal Silence was scared out of his wits. He hurriedly hugged his head and squatted on the ground. Wang Yu reacted quickly. His left hand slanted upwards, blocking the scimitar in the person's hand. Then, his right hand pressed against the person's chest. A wave of chi shot out from Wang Yu's palm, and the person was sent flying. Then, he flipped on the ground and disappeared into the sand. At this moment, everyone who had mocked Wang Yu was stunned. They all looked at Wang Yu as if they were looking at a monster, murderous intent. Did such a thing really exist? Everyone's worldview was completely shattered. Wang Yu casually scooped up Eternal Silence, then said to him, "Stand back to back with the others. Don't move." At this moment, the sand in the desert where the escort team was located began to surge. One by one, monsters wearing yellow cloaks stood up from the ground and tightly surrounded the 300 people. And the sneak attacker from before was also standing behind the monsters. Dark Desert Bandit, LV-25, Elite, HP, 20,000 MP, 1,000 skills. Plunder, Ambush, Dark Scorpion King Minis, 35, Gold Boss, HP, 300,000 MP, 50,000 skills. King's Horn, Sand of Concealment, Sand of Time. Sword of the King is the leader of a large guild. Worldly Mage immediately thought of a countermeasure. He raised his arms and shouted, "Everyone, get into formation. Protect young Dawn and the others." Hearing this, the players quickly retreated. The tankers stood in front of the more vulnerable players. Ignorant inhumans, hand over the item in your hands. Otherwise, don't even think of leaving this desert. The Scorpion King used a function similar to a small loudspeaker to transmit the words clearly to every player's ears. The players curled their lips, as if handing over the item would allow them to leave the desert alive. This bastard was simply humiliating their own intelligence. This Scorpion King wasn't a highly intelligent boss in manual mode. Seeing the player's attitude, it immediately began to recite its second line. "Since you're so stubborn, then don't blame me for being impolite. Warriors, kill them and plunder their souls to worship our God." With that, the Scorpion King waved the scimitar in his hand. His sand bandits shouted as if they were on steroids, "We're willing to serve our king." The sand bandits' bodies flashed with a golden light. They surged forward like a tidal wave and fought with the players. The sand bandits' skills were very average. The so-called stealth skill was just to use their yellow clothes to blind the player's vision. It was far inferior to the thief's stealth skill. Plunder was a very shameless skill. It could make melee players lose their weapons for 3 seconds. However, this skill had a long cast time, so it was easy to dodge. It was just a level 25 elite monster. To these level 20 players, it wasn't much of a problem. Even with the buff from King's Order, the Sand Bandits couldn't gain an advantage against these well-equipped and well-equipped players. However, these Sand Bandits didn't know what was going on. There seemed to be only 1,000 of them, but they seemed to be endless against such a shameless human wave tactic. The players could only defend themselves. It was very difficult to break out of the encirclement. Why is it like this? We've killed many Sand Bandits. Why are there still no less? Eternal Silence asked Wang Yu in a panic. Eternal Silence wasn't the only one who was puzzled. Even the other players felt that something was wrong. Wang Yu had been squinting his eyes at the Scorpion King since the start of the battle. Hearing Eternal Silence's question, he pointed at the Scorpion King and said, That boss is causing trouble. Chapter 143. Genius 1 Second Remember, providing you with exciting novels to read. Eternal Silence followed the direction of Wang Yu's finger and saw the Scorpion King waving its scimitar. Rays of golden light shot out from the scimitar and set off a sand fog. The sand fog rose and turned into sand bandits. The other players were fighting and could not be distracted. The Scorpion King was thin and small. Unless Wang Yu was observant, normal people would not notice it if they did not pay attention. Damn, that's shameless. Eternal Silence exclaimed. So the sand bandits were made of sand. There was so much sand in this desert. Didn't that mean this guy could summon infinitely? At this stage, players did not have AoE skills and could only fight one-on-one. However, no one could stop the Scorpion King. If this continued, with the Scorpion King's summoning speed, it would be a matter of time before everyone was killed. Seeing that the situation was so bad, the other three young masters said anxiously, "What should we do?" Eternal Silence thought for a moment and said, "Split up a team to hold him back. Do you think they can get out?" Wang Yu pointed at the surrounding sand bandits. Eternal Silence was speechless after hearing Wang Yu's question. The number of sand bandits was still increasing. At this time, they were surrounded tightly. If they could break out, the situation would not be so bad. Then, Boss Iron Ox, what should we do? Wang Yu glanced at the Scorpion King and said to the four people, "Stand still. I'll stop him." "Hey, are you alone?" The four people were stunned and asked in surprise, "Really?" The Scorpion King was a gold boss. Normal players could not take it down without a team of 20 to 30 people. Although they knew that Wang Yu was strong, the four people were still a little surprised when they thought that they would be facing a gold boss. Hee hee. Wang Yu smiled faintly and replied, "The Angel of Judgment is much stronger than him." The four people were speechless. How could they forget that this ruthless person even killed the Angel of Judgment? "Boss Iron Ox, you must be careful." Wang Yu nodded and pushed his way through the crowd to the front. Mingdu was standing among the mages, throwing grenades from time to time. "Io, Grandpa Nyo, you're finally willing to move. I thought you were going to spend the winter at the back." Mingdu teased after seeing Wang Yu. Wang Yu interrupted Mingdu's nonsense and said, "Cut the crap and open a path. I want to go." Mingdu put down his staff and shielded his eyes with his hand. He looked at the surrounding bandits and asked, "There are so many of them. Is your teleportation distance enough? Give it a try." "All right, be careful that you don't fall to your death." As he spoke, Mingdu shouted at the players in front of him, "Stand to the side and let me take 2 steps forward." Everyone turned around and saw that it was the Chuanjin duo, so they all made way for them. Mingdu was someone who would kill people at the drop of a hat. Of course, no one wanted to have a taste of lightning. Besides, if a mage was in a hurry to die, he could go ahead. Everyone hated Mingdu so much that they couldn't wait for him to die and revive. The two walked to the front. Mingdu stood behind a shield bearer and turned to ask Wang Yu, "Are you ready?" "Yes." "Hellfire, rise." Mingdu shouted. The staff in his hand flashed, and a wall of fire covered the area in front of him. There was no need to be so loud when casting a spell. Mingdu was just showing off out of habit. Bright City's thunder was loud, but the rain wasn't light either. The sand bandits at the front had already lost a lot of HP from the other players. Now that they were hit by Bright City's spell, their HP was instantly reduced to nothing. AoE spell. Everyone was shocked at this scene. They stared at Mingdu with murderous eyes. AoE spells were quite rare before level 30. As expected of the number 1 mage in Chuanjin, he had even learned an AoE spell. What infuriated everyone was that this bastard didn't use his AoE skills earlier. What the hell was that? At the same time, Wang Yu activated Collapsing Fist and rushed to the front of the bandits. Everyone was shocked again. F***CK, does this guy want to die? No matter how useless the bandits were, they were still elite monsters. A Grandmaster of Combat was a trash class, so how could they not be killed in one hit? The next moment, Wang Yu leaped up and landed on the head of one of the bandits. Stepping on the head of the bandit, He took a few steps forward. Just as his body was about to land, Wang Yu released a chi wave with his right hand behind him, lifting his body up once again. At the same time, his body flashed, and he appeared behind the bandit. Is this a wuxia movie? Everyone's eyeballs almost popped out of their sockets when they saw this scene. Wang Yu's move was much more shocking than Mingdu's AoE spell. Anyone could learn AoE spells as long as their level was high enough. However, Wang Yu's maneuvers, even if he learned the teleportation skill, probably no one else in Rebirth would be able to do it. Moreover, Wang Yu's movements were as smooth as flowing water. There was no hindrance at all, as if it was an instinctive reaction. Such nimble movements made the players feel relaxed and happy, especially the few grandmasters of combat in the player camp. When they saw Wang Yu's movements, they were all mesmerized and cheered. This was a true grandmaster of combat. This was how grandmasters of combat should play. At this time, Wang Yu had already jumped behind the bandits. When the Scorpion King saw Wang Yu, it immediately stopped summoning and swung its scimitar at Wang Yu with a murderous look. The Scorpion King was an agile boss. Its speed was very fast, and the shadow of its scimitar engulfed Wang Yu in an instant. Wang Yu was forced to retreat by the flash of the blade. The Scorpion King's swordsmanship was very simple. There were no more than slashes, 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 and sweeps. Although they were simple, they were the most practical moves in battle. This kind of move was very scary in the eyes of ordinary people, but in the eyes of a martial arts expert like Wang Yu, it was indeed crude and simple. The reason why Wang Yu was suppressed by the Scorpion King was mainly because Wang Yu was countered by agile bosses. The Scorpion King's speed made up for the flaws in his moves. After all, the Scorpion King was a gold boss. Not only was its speed much faster than Wang Yu's, its other attributes were also very strong. If it wasn't for Wang Yu's thorough understanding of its swordsmanship, he would have long been hacked to death by the Scorpion King. Wang Yu was now at a disadvantage and was very passive. However, if anyone could see Wang Yu's expression, they would definitely be very surprised, because there was not a trace of panic on Wang Yu's face. Instead, he looked very relaxed. In the blink of an eye, another round had passed. The Scorpion King's left hand moved, and its right hand held the scimitar and slashed down. This was the opening it was waiting for. Wang Yu smiled and suddenly attacked. With a shake of his left hand, he used a skillful force to knock the Scorpion King's scimitar away. His right hand wrapped around the Scorpion King's left wrist, trying to capture it. The Scorpion King's eyes flashed fiercely. It swung its scimitar and cut off its left wrist, forcing Wang Yu to retreat. Then, it waved its scimitar again, and a cloud of sand covered the Scorpion King's hand. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.